Everybody, and welcome back to the Wildcard podcast with KT and Charles Sandfer. Well, you know what that time is. It's bracket or list time. Charles Sandfer coming in here for a little Super League action as we talk about probably the most important thing of the season is the list before T5. It's all going to be about the list. It's all going to be about Super League. Who's going to be in? Who's going to be out? Who's rising? Who's falling? Charles Sandfer, what a time to be alive. Welcome to the podcast that everyone wants to know about because we've had some crazy assessments over the last 48 hours when we revealed it on Sunday. Talk to me through this wild week that is only beginning and what you expect tonight.
Yeah, it certainly was a active reveal show for the Super League bracket. I guess technically in terms of moments over the course of the year, maybe the second most important because behind the one that follows T5, but hey. Yeah, definitely a lot to talk about. Some people that were surprises to me in terms of how high they ended up getting to, and then definitely for the viewers at home when they saw how high we ended up ranking them.
Well, let's go into that Super League metrics, Sanford. You got the metrics you want to break down, buddy? So let the fans know what we're looking at here before we get into the actual program, because I think it's important for the viewers to know what we're working with.
Sure, I can get that up really quick. So now, not really in any particular order, in my opinion, when I'm looking at this, but Discord is Discord sometimes. The criteria that anyone that makes the list is supposed to be looking at. We have championship belt. So obviously those are four different, that only applies to four people. Direct head-to-head, series record, strength of schedule, quad resume, tournaments entered, peak run versus consistency, however you list maker wants to view that, and any DQ wins or DQ losses.
Right, and there are some other things we will talk about. There are things such as common opponent, right, which is more back end. You got the SOS. You have head-to-heads, which are cool. Talk about why we broke it down. You have really what separates a top guy from, let's say, more a mid-pack player, where that could end up. Full access quad resume, all that's pulled up on my sheets right now. Let's get to it. Let's just get to it. That's kind of the metrics. That's what we're breaking down. Let's get to it with we'll go 25-1. Well, actually, let's mention the top 30. So the top 30, we did, of course, more of a poll. Of course, we had an AP poll, which is more now gone as a reference. Now, it used to be the thing you would see in T1 and 2, but now it's more of a reference here. The 30 through 26 goes as followed. Obviously, these guys are just fringe, you'd say. Fringe is a good word to use. Players that could make it into the Super League hunt for T5. But let's go to it. So number 30 is the aforementioned, my man Charles Sandfer on the pot. Chomik, of course, 29, and they're all 4-4 records except for one. Lamas 3-4. He'll be the only guy that was a underwhelming player in terms of the series record that snuck in there. We'll talk about why he's up there. Anjak 4-4. Yoshi 4-4. Yoshi up 8, Anjak down 5, Lamas up a whopping 19, Chami down a whopping 11, and you're up 1. Your thoughts on these 5? Obviously, we won't touch too much on these people because they're on the outside looking in, but what were some reasons for the fans at home why these guys got ranked? Let's say to the people maybe 31th on back that didn't make the cut. Go ahead.
Well, for this group of 5, it really was a varying list. Yeah, Yoshi lost out on head-to-heads, Peter, I guess you could say the lack of consistency where he's got 2 first-round exits didn't really help him. Lamas gets up this high because for him, all 3 of his wins are at least in quad 3, being Lara, Clay, Monkey. We'll get to that in a little moment. We'll get to most of those later on. Chomik, myself, we had some top 25 consideration / just outside of it on most lists. That's kind of how we got there. Not really a group you want to spend a whole lot of time on, but that's kind of what ended up happening with that group of 5.
I'm just pulling up the quad. You want to read off the quads from 31st on back to 36th? You want to read off those rest of those quads? So you can go ahead. Yeah.
So the way that this works, quad 3, for anyone that doesn't know, is the players 19 through 36. So obviously you have the 26 through 30 that was just mentioned. Behind that, we had Goldie would end up 31st, Nom 32nd, Hockey 33rd, Drip 34th, Captain 35th, and Clay on the fringe of it in 36th. Just missing out was Ard in 37th.
Correct. And of course, 37th on back is quad 4, 1 through 9 Q1, 10 through 18 Q2, and then, of course, the aforementioned Q3. Now, I would say with this list, you look at these people, we talked about this on the show we did Sunday. Yoshi, the only one not making Super League ever, but Peter, Lamas, and technically Chomik are one-timers. Of course, 23 for those two. Chomik last year, and you've been here both years looking to try to make it 3 in a row. I would say all 4 of them have the EXP to get done T5. I can't rule any of those folks out. Yoshi is a little bit of an unknown. He's always been a bubble tier player, would always get around 20, 21. So I can see the same kind of movement for him, getting up in the ranking to get around there, but until we know what he'll do, we'll see how it goes.
Well, ironically enough, I think on Yoshi, he's gotten at least one Elite 8 both first 2 years. He hasn't gotten that yet, so maybe from that aspect. I think it's possible for this list or for this group to get up there. We saw some pretty significant movement, even just from making a Sweet 16 from some. So if they get the right group in front of them, or the right pod, anything can happen. But realistically, I think for this group, more than likely, the mindset is probably going to have to be more on just take it as it goes and see what happens. I know for me, I'm not really looking at Super League as being a possibility, even being in the top 30. It's just going to be go out, have some fun in T5.
Yeah, and all these people, one thing to add, they did receive votes in the AP poll. Of course, we still do that as a side-by-side. Yoshi got 10. Obviously, Sandfer got 4. Lamas got 5 with Onjak. And actually, Chomik did. I'm sorry. Chomik's the only one that didn't actually receive a vote. But everyone else did have some consideration, so that's always good.
Ironically enough, Yoshi actually came in 25th on that AP poll.
Yeah, now there's going to be a reason why. Then you're probably saying Kay or Sandfer, why is he not in the top 25? Well, we'll talk about that. And we're going to talk about our first player right here. Now we'll start going one by one. Now we'll go to Ghost. Now, I'm going to read off Ghost's stats, his resume a little bit of the tail behind the tape in a sense. So you look at Ghost, 4-win player from California, made Super League 2024. His resume goes as follows. He's 1-1 in Quad 1. So he beat a Quad 1 player and lost to a Quad 1 player. No Quad 2 means he hasn't played anybody from 10th through 18th currently ranked. Now, of course, that resets, which we'll talk about later in the program. 1-2 in Quad 3, as I said, 1 win in Quad 2, or Quad 3, and then 2 losses in Quad 3, and then 2-1, same thing in Quad 4, 2 wins in Quad 4, 1 loss to one of those players, 37th through 64th, and a .517 strength, which is, I have a list right here. I'm going to go over that list. SOS, that was around, let's see. Yeah, that was 50th of the 64 points. Now remember, we're going to talk about why SOS matters, and at the same time is a little fluky. And then 25% of his wins are top 25 of the season wins. Now, the big thing here, Sandfer, is he has the head-to-head over Yoshi. They play on the table back in T2, or it was T1, whatever it was. I think it was T1. And Ghost took care of business, right? Now, when Ghost takes care of business, you can't really argue that fact, but there are going to be some scenarios where actually the head-to-head turns into a triangle. A head-to-head can turn into just not enough because said person has more value on a certain metric to where they don't have enough of a head-to-head to overpass them. Talk to me through this one, man, about Ghost season so far. Obviously a Super League contender last year, made it, and now on the bubble and just squeaking in the top 25. And where you had him on the list when you were making your list too?
So for me, he ended up coming in 23rd. One of the things that helped for him is he does have only one round 1 exit. The only problem is these two did play in T1, and that is actually the farthest that Ghost has gotten into a tournament this year. Ghost winning and losing out in the Sweet 16. Ironically enough, to Captain, who's had a tremendous fall in form. That is also the farthest that Captain's gotten this year. But for me, it kind of came down to I liked that he had the head-to-head over Yoshi. I did like that he had 2 wins inside of my top 25. And I just kind of liked his consistency better than who I had 24th on my list. The person who I had 24th ended up winning out a little bit more, so we'll get to him in a moment. But yeah, Ghost, I couldn't see any case for him not being either 25th or 26th. I definitely made a case for Peter ahead of Ghost, but Ghost ended up winning out in the end.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this too. We always have a previous list ranking and whatnot. So you look at Ghost's thing, you lost 4 spots. Now, he was 21, so he is a fringe player. Most of the people had Ghost, if I'm not mistaken, the highest someone had Ghost was it 23rd, if I'm mistaken?
I mean, 23rd would have been mine. Is there
Somebody up? G as well. Yep.
G 23rd.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Actually, you know what? 6 points. At 6 points, yeah, that would have been the only top 25 consideration he got. Because Ghost was the one that came in just behind Yoshi at 26.
Right. And I want to be clear. We have 8 people that make lists. So that's Sandfer, obviously me, Lamas R, G, Yoshi, Caesar, and Brent. Now, Caesar didn't make one. He'll be back for T5, but normally we have 8. Now, we'll talk about at the end of the show or towards the end of when we get to the top guys on why there's some interesting things we've put out there for the fans. Now, my theory behind Ghost was I looked at his resume. Okay, the SOS is, not good, right? But at the same time, he had the top 25 wins, as Sandfer said. He does have one quad 1 win. He does have a little bit of a head-to-head over Yoshi. He has some good tiebreakers. It came to the point where it was a little bit better than the guys behind compared to some of the guys behind. And because of that, it made sense to put him there, for sure. He wasn't going to get anything higher in my consideration than 25th. Now, I didn't have him in my top 25, but he was my 26th guy. But I was willing to negotiate on him because I did see the case by case of, okay, he has a little bit better of a resume than certain people. I can actually budge for that. Now, the next person, ironically, makes the biggest jump. Now, I want to be clear about this. When I say biggest jump, the 24 spots, it's artificial. Because at the end of the day, Arya, ranked 48th at the original.
This is where we would have had not ranked last year.
Yeah.
Basically.
I understand we have more metrics now. I get it. But deep down, you almost have to approach these people as a non-ranked player. Let me go through Arya's stats here real quick. Now, Arya, it's an interesting case because most of her tournament run was that last tournament. And it goes as follows. No quad 4. Okay, so right there, that's good. When you have no quad 4, that's the one quad you don't mind having on it. And then 0-1 quad 1, 2-1 quad 2, 2-2 quad 3. But the thing here for me, Sandfer, that really put her in the top 25, every win, that's in the top 25. I mean, you got some good wins. You got the Brad win. You got a win again. You want to pull it up. We have a Brad win. We have at the time, Peter, I believe, was the top 25. Remember, go off the old quad. So Peter win.
All 4 of her wins were top 25. The one that she loses actually is the person she displaces from the top 25 in Peter.
So that right there gave her the necessary boost to go up there. Now, Arya, of course, has a good loss to Caesar. And when you lose to Caesar, which we'll talk about a little later, that could help you. And then, of course, the Abiel win was there. So some good tiebreakers. Now, you're going to say, okay, that looks like pretty good resume. 4 out of 4. Why is Arya 24? Well, let's keep in mind the strength of schedule is only a one metric to the program, to the equation. But her strength of schedule, actually at 21st, is not bad. But at the same time, there is room for improvement. But it is a top, let's say, 10 people of the guys that need to get somewhere, and not just 0 or 1 win guys. So I want to hear Sandfer's thoughts on this because I'm pretty sure the highest list for her was, I'm just confirm as I get through the data. Yeah, the highest list for her was 20th. Someone had her 20th, I'm pretty sure. Yes.
I mean, double check.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Someone did have 20. That was Brad.
Yeah.
So you want to explain how you ranked Arya? Because I don't believe I had Arya anything higher than 24.
You You had her 24th. G was 25th. Yoshi was 24th. Ard was 25th. Lamas was 25th. And I hate to say it, she actually didn't even come into my top 25. The reason why is because when I make my list, I go person by person, and when I got to comparing her to Yoshi's resume, I liked Yoshi's resume a little bit more, so she actually didn't get ahead of that. Otherwise, she would have gone ahead of Ghost. She would have gone ahead of Peter in my list. But what I can speak to for her is that, what I can speak for her is that she did have the top 25 wins. She had all 4 of them there. For me, one of the things that cost her and mine is that because she has 4 wins and 2 round 1 exits, her Elite 8 round of 32 resume doesn't hit as hard as what Peter's does at like 2 Sweet 16s, for example. So she lost out on peak run consistency on mine when it came to a lot of people. And to move ahead of someone on my list, either has to be a 3-2. If you lose head-to-head, it has to be overwhelming. And I think in this case, it ended up being a tie. If I don't remember exactly each person, but I think this one ended up being a tie. And so with Yoshi and Arya, I like the Yoshi 2 quad 1 wins better.
You want to talk about how you do this in a sense, because not a lot of guys may understand your processing of how you go person, but you want to dive into a little further for the fans at home on how you do that? Go ahead.
Sure. So usually what I try to do is update round by round as I can. And what I do is I will start off at the top of my list. I'll look at what did they do in that round, and I'll compare my number 1 and number 2 players. If I like the number 2 player's resume more, in the sense of I'll look through each of the criteria list: championship, head-to-head, series record, strength, and then peak runs, and then I'll save the strength schedule to the end of the tournament. I'll look at quad resume last. And what I'll do is then I'll look at it as kind of like a checklist. Which person does either person get the have the head-to-head? Does either person have that championship belt? And in a way, if you have the edge, in my opinion, on one, you get like a check mark. And whoever has the edge check mark wise at the end is who I'd move ahead. Like I said, if you lose head-to-head, then if you're up 3-2, then I don't necessarily move that person ahead. That was a situation that happened higher up on my list that I'm not going to talk about yet. But in this case, I think if I remember correctly, it ended up being more of like a tie, probably, I think, between Yoshi and Arya.
Yeah, and that's the key. There's criteria, and some people will say, well, if you're up 3-2, that automatically clears. Sometimes if it's 3-3, you can go to common opponent, you can go to other things you feel, or an eye test maybe you want to go to other factors too, which will be T5 only down the road, which could be average finish, could be, if it's just damn close, maybe if they played right now, which also will come into play. But for the most part, for the first 4, really T3 and 4, because the first 2, there's no Super League stuff. It's all about just use the metrics, see what you got in front of the other player, and go from there. Now, I'll say personally, I had Arya 24. I just felt. Well, that.
Forgot about it. Arya had the G-Man loss. That would have been one of the things there that would have helped.
G loss, Ghost, Brad. That's the key. You look at her season, how Elite 8 and T4 is good, but the more important thing is the Ghost, Brad head-to-heads down the road. Abion as well. Those are big head-to-heads, and if those people falter and Arya can get another run, that's when the head-to-head really will come into play. Because, man, there is differences. 4 versus 4 wins over 4-4 Ghost is good, but then Brad's got a little bit more, and Abion's got a little more. Now, Abion's a different case, which we'll talk about the DQL a little later. But yeah, I had Arya around 24. I had nothing really to say because that's where we ended up with it. Now, this next person took a little bit of a hit. It's Ed Ziemba. Taylor Tapered. He's got the Vapor win, which we'll talk about in a little bit of retrospect. But at the same time, Sandfer, I think about Ed. That Elite 8 in T2 is big, but the difference here is he was ranked 14 on someone, which is, I believe, your list, which we'll get to. But let me get to the tail of the tape. Now, Ed, simple. 0-1 in Quad 1, 1-1 in Quad 2. That's the classic resume. 1-1 in Quad 3. But he does have a lot of Quad 4 Ws, right? He's 3-1. You take the tail of the tape, that's 1-2 in Quad 1 and 2, and then 4-2 in Quad 3 and 4. His strength of schedule, though, with only one top 25 win, being Vapor, is that 3-1. All right, is that .486, which gives you the .486 because a lot of the wins have been at the back. Talk to me how you had Ed higher, but at the end of the day, we settled on 23rd. Talk me through your process. Go ahead.
So a lot of this actually came from the fact that I already had Ed higher than certain people that weren't. Well, okay, I'll say it this way. I'll just say it bluntly. Coming into the tournament, I had Ziemba ahead of Gone and Ashley on the grounds of I really didn't know if they're playing again. And when when it came to comparing Ziemba to Ashley, it's this doesn't really matter for Super League if Ashley was ahead. And so when comparing to Ashley, it's kind of, can you get to that 5-win mark and be compared to her? If the answer is yes, then I've moved those 5-win people ahead of her. And so Ziemba kind of also then wins out to Gone on tournaments entered. Should that... It's a little bit of a gray area, and it's not the easiest way of doing it, just because it's not the fun spot of being when you know you're trying to... You want to rank them fairly, but at the same time, you know that, they're not playing again, so, okay. So that 14th is, I would definitely have as an asterisk anyway. He does have... The problem for him realistically ended up being that he loses out to head-to-head to Andy. I didn't compare him to some of the other people that are higher here because they couldn't get ahead of someone. That's part of the reasons of why he ends up 14 on mine. But he does have an Elite 8, a Sweet 16. Problem is, if he loses a round 1 again, that's 3 round 1 exits this year. Not going to be a good Super League record resume if that happens.
Yeah, that's the problem with Ed is, okay, you can point to probably the two biggest things, right? The Brian L, right? That's the one thing, and you can point to the Vapor W. Would that balance out in someone's head? It could balance out in someone else's head. However, at the same time, you look at his SOS, which is something that's very eye-opening for sure to some people. It's one of the bottom 10 players in the league. It's basically 55th, and when you don't have the quantity over the quality, we talk about quantity. If you don't have the quantity of wins, you can't overcome that. If you had 8 wins and you have that strength of schedule, you're going to see why somebody's up ahead. But you only have 5, and a lot of those wins are 4 out of the 5 are in quads 3 and 4 versus 1 in quad 1 and 2, and only one of those being the top 25 win. Now, granted, it aged well, right? It aged well, that one win for sure, which we'll talk about in Vapor. But at the same time, he's going to need something more. Now, for Ed, let me see. I think everyone else, let's see where he had him. Excluding you, I think most people had him, 20, 22. Somebody had him 23, it was Yoshi. Art had him 19. I had him about 20. And Lamas had him 20. Yeah, so... And Brad 22. So, realistically, Sandfer, despite you being the outlier, we kind of got it right to the point where, okay, he probably needs to be around there. I think it's a safe reading. What do you think, ultimately? Sandfer?
Sorry, had a little bit of distraction.
You good?
Yeah, no, I fully admit it as an outlier. It's one of those, again, it's the one flaw to the way I do it, but like I said, wasn't really the fairest of ranking probably for him anyway, just because I already had him ahead of some 5-win people that aren't necessarily playing, or definitely didn't play T4 at least.
Well, and that's really what the key will be, I think, moving forward when we go to upper tier, as we start to climb to the next rank. We'll get to the next person. There's always going to be flaws. And speaking of flaws, we start next up with Hasim Acosta. Now, Hasim is not supposed to even be considered a Super League player. All right, let's be honest. At the beginning of the year, he was ranked 52nd coming in. The fact that he's even up here is a win, and that's a confidence booster. But let's go through the tape. 4-4, right? He's from New York, novice class. Got the Ziemba and Logan head-to-heads, which were huge, right? Because there you go. See him ahead of Ziemba. Makes sense. And someone had him 20th. 24th was his previous list ranking. Let's go to tail of tape. And for Acosta, it's simple. He has that Logan win, for sure, coming in at 4 wins. But you look at his season, it's been inconsistent. He's 0-2 in quad 1. He's 2-2 in quad 2. And then he's 2-0 in quads 3 and 4. Right, 1-0 respectively to combine it. But his strength of schedule is some of the best in the league. 0.603. And you look at this, Sandfer, this is definitely a quality over quantity, right? Not a lot of wins, but the quality of those 2 top 25 wins being Ed and, of course, Logan carried him in, which were quad 2 players. Talk to me how he's here, and do you think he has a chance? Because I would say Ziemba, okay, started to make strides towards the end of last year. This is an unknown. We have no idea. Acosta's never been in this position. Talk me through it.
Yeah, this is another one where, and it's another case of someone that this year you look at, they have 2 round 1 exits. And I think those are the hardest ones personally to rank at this point. Because when I look at my list, the ones that had 2 round 1 exits are all over my board. For Acosta, the problem I had him actually behind Ghost. And one of the things was, for when I was comparing them, I had to basically take out the Yoshi spot. And while Acosta's wins ended up being pretty good, trying to remember what exactly would have been the telltale. I typed out in Lounge the other day. I don't remember why I said. But let me go back and look.
I can find it for you. I can forward it.
I said he had better wins than Acosta is what it was. And it's one of those things I would have liked. I liked the Gone win a little bit better. Looking at this, maybe that's not the best of reasons, but basically, again, when it came down to it, Ghost I liked the resume better, or I don't remember. I think I like the consistency better, only having the 1 round 1 exit to 2 round 1 exits. That's what I would assume was what it was.
Yeah, I'm looking at this right now, and I look at some of the things with Acosta. You know, he has the
better wins, but then Acosta has 3 in my top 25 to Ghost 2, so that definitely wasn't the reason.
But you have Acosta at this. He's definitely top heavy, right? You play 6 games in quad 1, 2. There's a couple things to keep in mind. He was back there anyway. He started as a 15 seed to start the year. Now, when you start that low, very likely, not all the time, but very likely when you start that low, you're going to get good wins. Okay, that's the first thing. You're going to get good wins. But for him, what's impressed me about him is he's an unknown, right? In that 1 T3 run, he did make run. Logan, what did he do? 7. Yoshi, 7. Ed, 7. Albion, he lost to, went to 9. So he started to get more reps as a player and to play against him. Now, of course, in T3 or T4, he didn't do much. He lost to Vapor, which we all know what Vapor did. Did beat Allen, but at the same time, he did find a little bit more on the back end to try to put in the work, per se, and go to another level. I think for Acosta, because he's an unknown, a lot of house money, you can go into that HM mentality in T5 and say, you know what, if I'm there, I'm there. Now, list-wise, you had him at, let's see. Where'd you have him at?
I had him 24.
24, okay. We have 20.
I was pretty close to the accurate ranking for this one.
Yeah, 20 on Lamas. I had him at.
Acosta was pretty consistent on
22.
Across the board.
Yeah, at 22. Anybody? Did G even have him here? No, G didn't even have him. Okay.
Yeah, G had some interesting ones there at the back end.
Yeah, we won't talk about that. We're not going to expose him like that. But Yoshi had him at. Oh, Yoshi, I think, had him at the highest, right? 21. No, Lamas did.
Yoshi.
Lamas
Yeah,
was
Lamas
21.
was the highest up for me.
Yep. Art had him at 22, and Brad had him at 20. Okay, yeah. Excluding G, everybody had him in the top 25. 20 was the thing, and he was 23rd on the AP poll. So, about where he should be, for sure.
Costa, I think, is the low. When you're at the bottom half of this top 25, that's the thing as well, is that this is the group of people that it's understandable they're not going to be on everyone's top 25, because for us to have had 30 different names show up in the top 25 list across 7 different lists, there's going to be some differences at that bottom half, not necessarily up at the top.
That's the thing. There's always going to be discrepancy. There's always going to be a back end thing where you get to the bottom of the portion of the top 25, 30. Someone's going to have some hole, a Swiss cheese hole, I call it, in the resume. So how do you avoid it? I want this one to go to Sandfer here. I'm gonna read off to Pierre Taylor tape, but this one's interesting because this is the first guy we start talking about the old DQ word. Now, not an loss, which is worse, but the DQ word does come in. Let me review the Taylor tape. Coming in at 21, Tapir, Michigan, of course, the T4 winner from last year. Couldn't repeat. But there is a couple things to know about him. 3 Sweet 16s, no round 1 exits. He had a previous list ranking of 20, so he goes down 1 spot. Somebody had him at 15, which we'll talk about. But for Tapir, it's simple. The one thing that's going to be glaring, you're going to see it here, folks, is that SOS. And for Tapir, 0-2 combined in quads 1 and 2 respectively. 0-1 Q1, Q2, 0-1. But then he's a combined 6-2 in quad 3 and 4, with the 2-2 being in quad 3, the 4-0 in quad 4. Arguably the worst strength of schedule in the league of the playoff contenders. 0.452. And with the DQ W and only one top 25 win being, I'm pretty sure it was Ghost. I think. Yeah, Ghost. That is not going to get you a winning resume. But Sandfer, you had an interesting reasoning on why he's here. You had him a little lower, but your thoughts on Tapir squeaking in to 21st, because it definitely puts him in a spot of bubble, but it also gives him some leeway for sure to move up.
Yeah, so I actually did have him lower, because again, it's one of those things that when I'm going through the list and comparing people, the forfeit wins and losses, when you have a DQ and you're losing, that's one category you're losing to everyone else. So to be ahead of someone, all of a sudden now you have to have some combination at least where maybe you have more wins and something else. It's never as simple as, oh, I just need to have more this. You're having to look for 2. Now, luckily for Tapir, he does have the 7 wins in total with that DQ. So he does, the group that he's around, he does win that. So it kind of helps balance out a little bit. The argument I actually ended up making for him, though, to be up here was actually thanks to the argument that we had about the discussion we had about background post T3, where because background had been 3 tournaments, 3 round of 32 exits, he had to be someone in the top 30. I was saying that, well, if we're going to start talking about Tapir here, with 3 Sweet 16s out of 4, he does have to be somewhat close to the Sweet 16 or to the top 16, because he's at least close to that Sweet 16 average that I would say someone should have to guarantee that they should be in Super League. So he does have to improve a little bit on that. He does have the one that he didn't get there, but all in all, it's been a solid year for Tapir, just not quite there. Ironically enough, on my list, he was 25th going into T3 or into T4. And leaving T4, he was still 25th on my list. So he passed some people, fell behind some people, ended up staying in the same spot.
Yeah, that's how it goes sometimes. Sometimes it works itself out. Now, if somebody had him 15, I'm looking at it, it was...
2 people did, actually. G and Brad.
Yep. Yeah, G and Brad. I believe we had some people have them, let's see. We had someone have them 17th?
This
Yoshi?
might have been I think everyone had him ranked. I think this was the lowest person that everyone had ranked, at least somewhere.
You have 25th, Lamas, me, I'm 23rd, R 23rd. Brad had him where? 15. Okay, so
Brown,
Brad and G 15.
yeah,
Yoshi had him all along.
everyone that submitted a list had Tapir ranked, which I think this was the lowest person that, or at least in the official Super League rank, that everyone had ranked. Unless I was wrong about Ziemba being on every list. No, Ziemba wasn't on G's list, so.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this, I'm trying to think of why people. I know I'm looking at some of the. Why isn't Tapir ahead of certain people? I'm going back to the lounge chat. It goes down to the strength of schedule is not good, which is the worst in the league of the guys that really matter.
Strength schedule, but then the problem also is, like he loses out to Abion on head to head. That's a difficult one to try and figure out where. I pained my way through that one T3, and then I ended up having to pain my way through it on like where do those two stand in regards to that last time or this time, because last time Tapir ended up winning out over Abion because of the DQL. This time Abion actually won out even despite DQL. So
well, he's going to be the next guy, and we'll talk about that because that DQL and of course with Gon as well. Those are very tricky propositions to figure out, and that's why I'm glad you're here because not every win and loss or every thing is created equal on that end. But the question I have for you, Sandfer, is of these 5 people. Now remember, 3 out of these people have made Super League before. 2 of them are unknowns. Tapir, Acosta, Ariga. Which one do you think can make it into the top 16? And who do you think falls out of top 25? Give me 2 names. What do you got?
all right. Well, the move into the top 16 is an easy one for me. And that's going to be Tapir. 1, he's already done it before. 2, he is on the edge of that Sweet 16 average. So I think another Sweet 16 Elite 8 run, you're looking at 9 to 10 wins. That should realistically be enough. That was enough last year to get in. Should be enough this year. Obviously, if he can get some help with some of those wins going deep as well, that can help. For the name to fall out of the top 25, probably Ziemba, for the fact of he's been, well, I can't say the least consistent out of that group. But he's the one that's trending the worst out of them.
Yeah, of course, Ziemba did lose to. I'm going to agree wholeheartedly. That was my 2 picks as well. I think Tapir, we know what he can do in T4 last year. He got hot. At the right time, and it's not out of the proportion to say he doesn't go out there and wins 4 and make a Final 4 and gets a damn good resume towards the end and can squeak himself in for sure. He can go out there and turn it up.
T5 this year is when T4 was last year.
Yeah, that's true. Remember, let's not forget he won August 10th. His T4, which we are in T5 now. I say the only thing with Ed is, yeah, okay, Brian, not good, right? The loss, but excluding that Vapor win, he's been all over the board. And I think for Ed, I think the fact that him and Acosta are here in the first place is a winning year. Their expectations were, 2 or 3 wins, I think, by the CPU at the beginning of the year. They've surpassed expectations, 4 and 5 respectively. Not sure what to think about Ghost. He's been all over. He's been a boomer buster player his entire career. Ari is just an unknown because Ari hasn't been here. We don't know what to expect. It's been 2 years for Ari in a playoff spot. I just had a run recently. And we have seen hangovers. Remember, let's not forget, Sam, Ard made a T3 run, right? What did he do in T4? Nothing. He lost round 1. And we have seen those hangovers too. So we'll see what the hangover run could be. And for Ari, it's weird too because she did lose to her, I guess, rival or main chief rival in the past season. That's always hurtful because that was a blacklisted game and now it's off. But anyway, that's all. Yeah, free range now, right? So for Caesar, congratulations. Let's get to now this is probably the more interesting one for sure. Abion, DQL, we know about, talked about it, got the KT and Tapir wins, but the tale of his tape is simple. And I think it's very eye-opening. 1-1 in quad 1, but once again, no quad 2, and then basically a combined 5-2 in quad 3 and 4. Now, half of his wins are in the top 25 for sure, with the 3 out of 6. The .547 is decent. It's a decent SOS. It's not gospel, but it's decent. And I'm pretty sure I put some, let's just check. Yeah, I put some in the top 40, 39th. But the problem here, Sandfer, is how do you manage a guy that has that DQL versus the field? Talk to me through the mindset, because before we get to the list ranking, talk to me through how you manage that when trying to make one of these.
I realistically, for me on this one, the way I ended up managing it was in this situation, because I had Abian behind before. It was really close again between them, and so this time, to try and make amends for what happened last year with Caesar and Carson, this time when it was close, it was still in Abian's favor, just like it was last time. And so what I did was I moved Abian ahead and I tried to compare him to the next guy. Which I think, and it was either that once I moved him ahead, I was comparing him either straight to Acosta or as to Ghost right away. And then the case to get ahead of those two actually was way easier. And so what ended up happening was I actually got him as high as 21st before I ran into a roadblock that I couldn't really get him past. The good thing for Abian is he does have only just a 1 round 1 exit. The problem ends up being that he does have that DQL, which loses him a category against almost everyone else in the league. And the consistency isn't entirely there over his runs, because he's only gone past the second round once this year. Which truthfully, of someone I'd have in my top 16, I'm going to want to have more than what Abian has if I'm going to get someone into like even just the top 20. So realistically, if he goes out early, this is probably the limit of where I could have him as 21st. But we'll have to wait and see. Has some good wins though, because he does have Tapir. He has Acosta head-to-head, which was one of the things that definitely helped, and he has the KT win, but some might argue should nullify the DQL. But the problem is, speaking as the bracket person, had that T2 game happen with you, KT, one, you're playing that game differently than what you did in T3, and the T3 game against you doesn't even happen then. So makes it kind of hard to try and say that DQL shouldn't matter.
Has to matter, 100%. And we had the opportunity to play, and albeit some circumstances maybe we couldn't control. Things happen, I understand. But as a league organizer, you like to get every game played. Now, listen, at the same time, you take the DQL or DQW. It's not going to hurt you as much. And, well, I probably shouldn't say it because we all know that situation with a certain someone. But you take it in hindsight. At the same time, for Abian, you don't want DQ on your resume. I don't want. Now, the saving grace for him, why he's here a little bit too, is he has to head-to-head over some key opponents. Tapir, obviously myself, but myself's a little bit out of reach. Tapir's right there for now. And list-wise, Acosta's right there. Of course, he had head-to-head for It wasn't written, but that's true. Now, the thing I'll say about Abian, where he was on the list to some people. Now, somebody had Abian at 14. Let me check. Is it Brad? Yes. Brad was the highest. Then we had, I believe, looking at this, Yoshi had him at 16. Okay. Then we had somebody had him
at 21st from Ard, 19th from G, 21st from you,
21st from you, yeah,
19th from Llamas, 21st from me.
It averaged out to be about 20th, because I'm pretty sure in the AP poll he was 19th, 20th. So yeah,
he ended 19th on the AP poll.
Yeah, so realistically, he's about where he should be. You know, don't think I have any complaints there. Now, what's your thoughts on the one thing I will say, though? I'll save it. Actually, I'll say that, because that's going to be a combo with God. Let's get to the next. I'll save that our topic for that. That one's going to be a little more interesting. But yeah, that's Abian. That's where he's at. And I'm pretty sure your reasoning for Abian was, let's see, why he's 20. DQ lost to KT and Beverly. Correct.
Yeah. Which it did.
It has to. You can't just not penalize that. Next up will be Logan, and the question mark for Logan will be coming about in T5 will be where he can make a run, because he had a good start to the year, then he started to fade off. He's got the back-to-back Sweet 16 appearances, T2 and 3. He is a novice. I'll have to change that. Not a veteran. I'll change that real quick. Not every description was written by commission. It was, unfortunately, G had to go, and I do thank Cody Smart. I'll take credit for some of his mistakes because I could have put him in a better shot position. But regardless, let's go to Logan here. Tail of tape. And for Logan, it's pretty simple. He's got the 1-1 everything except for the quad 4. He's 1-1 in quad 1, 1-1 in quad 2, 1-1 in quad 3, 1-0 in quad 4. Half of his wins are in the top 25, and he's got a .577 strength schedule. Sandfer, this is probably the most balanced resume we've seen. No, talk me through it and how the balancing act looked good compared to some of his compatriots.
Wait, is that really what it's? Hold up. I think. Well, whatever.
Did we forget something?
Forgot to put whatever. We didn't put his loss in on the sheet that we're reading off of there.
Whoops! That would have been James, right?
That's a 4-3 record. He definitely isn't 4-3.
Well, 4-4, you mean? Yeah. But okay, I'm sorry. He's the ultimate 1-1. He's played every single quad twice, and he's won 50-50. That's not the worst resume.
He lost Ellison, yeah. So that was the 1-1, yeah.
Thoughts on this? It's definitely something for sure. It's got more consistency than most, I would say.
Yeah, and for me, obviously he's the one win away from really moving ahead of Ashley on my list. Although that said, if I was comparing that, Ashley does have that head-to-head over Logan, which would be killer. So for Logan on my list, he might have to get to 6. I don't know. It depends on how I feel about keeping Ashley in my top 16 when she's obviously retired. But for Logan, situation ended up being for him, especially for how he ends up 17th on my list, a little bit higher than this spot, was his wins are just insanely good. Yes, the three of the 4 wins were spread out across 1, 2, and 3, but it ends up being that those 3 wins that are in those 2 quads, all, at least on my list, ended up being top 20 wins, not even just top 25. The lowest being background, actually. So to me, those wins helped propel him, especially considering he ended up with a common opponent win over the person that was 18th on my list, where the person 18th on my list lost to one of his wins. So that's ended up what happened there. I like the fact that he also had at least the 2 Sweet 16s. For me, having the Sweet 16 consistency, even if you pair it with the round 1s, matters. Especially when you're trying to look at getting someone into the top 16. I want that potential to be able to make that run and make yourself look like you could be a top 16 player, as opposed to, say, having 4 round 2 appearances at the same point to get to your 4 wins. KT?
Oh, sorry about that. My mic was off. He's definitely got to make some headway. He's not out of the woods yet. I think the SOS carrying him a little bit helps. He's got a little bit of momentum, maybe in the early part of the season, that has carried him here. But as I said before, he's a little similar to Ed and Acosta, more Acosta. We don't know what to expect. And you're going to kind of get a theme of this. Unfortunately, there is one player in his top 16 through 20 that if they were still playing, that would have been Ashley. Spoiler. That probably you would say, okay, wouldn't be here in the first place and is the one to trust. But you're going to notice a lot of unknowns here. Now, the list-wise for this one, all over the board. Yeah, I mean, we had somebody have Logan. Let's see.
Oh, wait, no, never mind. You had him higher than I did.
Yeah, I had him at 16. And then you had him at 17. Then we had somebody have him at 19, right? No, 20. That was Ard.
Yeah,
21 for... Yep. 22 2 from Yoshi. Yep. And where'd G have him? Didn't have him.
Did he not?
Wow.
He didn't.
How do we miss that one? Okay, we missed that one. That's on me on that one.
Okay, I didn't even notice that.
Well, he had a... Okay, so G... I'm not going to throw him on the bus.
So G not having him ranked must be how Logan ended up 22nd on the AP poll.
Yeah, he that's probably what. Yeah, because everyone else had him somewhere. Unless Brad didn't, right? Did Brad have him? No.
Brad had him 25th, which is still a miss in my opinion, but...
Yeah, it definitely is a little bit of a miss. I think he deserves to be up here at 19. Even though the AP poll says it's a ±3 differential. We'll talk more about what he's got to do in T5. But I think for Logan being here, not the worst position. Now the next one might be... This is where we start talking about controversy a little bit. Because where do you rank a Gon that's only played 2 tournaments? Well, good question. -10. Okay, he lost the 10 spots, but he's only made one run, the T2 finale. The T2 finale was everything. But here's his tail of tape. For Gon, it's simple. His T2 run was impressive. 2-1 in quad 1 and 3-1. There's no quad 2 or 4, 3-1 in quad 3. The strength of schedule is a .591. But 80% of those wins are in the, top 25. The problem for him is a DQL, and he has 2 less tournaments. Now, the good news is a little spoiler. He'll be back for T5, so that's 60%. That should get him out of the rookie class, which is not that important. A note. You have to play 60% to get out of that certain class threshold for rookies. He'll get that. The thing I would add here to this for Sandfer is it's not easy to rank anybody in this dang list, let alone a guy that's missed 2 tournaments in a DQL. So how did you kind of navigate this one? Because I know I saw a lot of people in the chat saying, well, he should be a little higher or he should be at 23. Do you think this is the right fitting to be around 18, just outside the bubble?
To me, it was. Actually, it's a little bit lower than where I had him personally. On my list, I guess what helps Gon is he was already ahead. I had him ahead of Ashley before. And so realistically, I never end up. I don't compare Gon to anyone once it gets to that point, because if I'm moving someone ahead of Ashley, I was moving him ahead of Gon. But the way I end up viewing it, there's 2 ways of really viewing a resume like Gon's, and it depends on how you want to view it. So the way I end up viewing it is I view it as 3 tournaments entered, 1 skipped, with the 3rd tournament realistically being a DQL. And the only reason I do that is because then that when I'm doing the checklist of categories, that gives him 2 categories that he's losing out on, and that's how I kind of deem being able to justify both, so that that way I'm kind of penalizing him for missing both of those tournaments. Some people, the other way of looking at it is they can look as, well, it's just 2 tournaments skipped and view it that way. But that's, to me, that wouldn't work the way I do my list. I will say that a fan-created list ended up with Gon at 4. So that was stunning to see.
Yeah, we're not going to discuss that a little bit, but that is something to, I guess, keep in mind. How I would navigate a Gon was simple. I looked at where he was hot and where he wasn't. He was hot in the SOS. He was hot in the wins he got being so top heavy in 2 quads, right? The 2 quads you probably want him. If you can't do quad 2, quad 3 better than quad 4. And he had the resume where I don't think he could have felt outside top 25. I thought about putting him 21 to really hit that DQL and the tournament's not entered home, but I changed my mind a little bit. I think I had him, let me see. Oh, actually, I had him around 15. So, yeah, realistically...
You had him in the same spot I did, but what it was is that you had Ashley higher than I didn't.
Right. So we'll talk about that in a second. But let's see who else had gone higher. Someone else had gone high, pretty high. Who was it? Yoshi? Yes, 13. Yep.
Yeah.
Yoshi 13. Gone was 14 for Ard.
There,
14 for Lamas. Yep. You had
an
15 on
18
Gone
from
for
G.
G. Yeah, 18. I think that was the
Is that
lowest.
13 to 19? Is the 13-19 range is basically where he was at?
Yeah, I mean, I think Gone is a player that we don't know too. Would you say? Would you say it's a fair assessment? We don't know too much about because he only made one run, but at the same time, we also don't know him as a not just a player, but habits. We don't know if he's a creature of habit or he's just still gonna be consistent because it's hard to know what you can do as a rookie. Let alone we don't know what to expect as a rookie and only made one run. Talk to me through that because that's the interesting thing. We don't see many rookies up here. This is the first one. We have another one coming up.
Yeah, it's hard to really say because yeah, he's got the finale appearance, but if he had 4 turns entered, and let's say it was the 3 round 1 exits that went with this, I don't think there's really any way that I think many of us would have had him in our top 16s. So I think he definitely does get a little bit lucky, whether that's having Ashley as a buffer, having just the fact of the resumes below aren't as great as they would have been in some years. And he carries some wins that, at least at the start of the year, we would have viewed as being good. I mean, he's got captain in that one run. He had cap, had a win over Tapir, a win over UKT, the Myth win, which ends up being looked as pretty good this year. Those are some pretty good wins in a normal year. Just this year, cap and Tapir aren't.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of parity and the beauty of expecting unexpected. Who would have had captain making an elite? Everyone thought, oh man, Cap Elite 8 in March. Surely he's good. That should be enough. No, hasn't won since. It's just he hasn't won since I want to say March 5th. He's on a 5-month losing streak, man.
It was March. I mean, he beat
Yeah.
Ghost in that Sweet 16, and he hasn't won since, and Ghost hasn't made to Sweet 16 since then. Neither one of those players has been good since that game.
And we can talk about a defining moment. There you go. There's a defining moment to see. But I think one of the things before we get to Andy, which is our next guy, which is technically the first guy in, which we'll talk about in a second. I will change.
For the last guy in?
Or last guy in. I think I want to make a really good point here. People are going to go through a cold stretch. Okay, it's natural. When you don't have tournaments play every time. My last win was Andy, I think. It's been a minute, right? It's been a minute.
I was going to say, ironically enough, I mean, you technically haven't lost in round 1 yet, but at the same time, you've lost your last 2 first matches.
Yeah, it's been. I mean,
April.
I played that game back in. I want to say it was late April or early May, somewhere around there. It's been a hot minute. I'll look into that, but it's been a minute where I haven't won. And I remember Nick, for example, he won March. Well, he hasn't won in a hot minute. Hasn't won since round 32, which was back in, I believe it was T3. So you're going to go through a cold stretch and a hot stretch. Every player will always go through. There's no beating around the bush. The only time you're ever hot is if you win a tournament. Vapor, okay, he hasn't lost in a minute. But at the same time, it's how you handle that cold stretch and try to find a W in your next preceding match. How you handle that adversity is the key. Now, speaking of a guy needing to handle the adversity, is Andy. Now, 5-4, solid resume for the most part. You look at his resume. 0-2, 1-0 in quad 2, got the 1-0 in quad. Now, he's got a 3-1 in quad 4, but it's solid enough to be there. He's got some good head-to-heads. You know, he's 0.548 strength of schedule. It's definitely a resume, I would say, Sandfer. It's not going to be anything higher than the last guy in. However, at the same time, it's the ultimate bubble. Talk to me how you ranked Andy, because to me, it's the ultimate bubble battle for sure.
So, for me, one of the things that ended up happening here was, first off, he had the 5 wins, which was basically my threshold to kind of get ahead of Ashley and Gone. And then when I was comparing him to Ziemba, it's the same number of wins, and Andy has that head-to-head. So it would have taken a massively good resume basically for Ziemba to have had that edge. And the problem is Andy to get to the same number of wins has made 2 Sweet 16s as opposed to getting only to, well, he's made 2 Sweet 16s and only been out in round 1 once, as opposed to Ziemba, who had the 2 round 1 exits. So for me, that's what got Andy ahead of Ziemba and up into my 13th spot, which I think is actually one of the highest rankings for Andy. I ended up I did like the Ziemba win. It's about the only good win I had on my list. He does have a Lamas win. There's definitely a lot here that needs to be improved. Otherwise, he's definitely vulnerable to being passed by a lot of people should they get to that 5-win threshold.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm echoing the same thoughts because he's got some good players play. It's going to help his SOS. But at the same time, there's not enough there where he can go any higher. I think, yeah, he gets a little lucky because technically Ashley's not playing, which will be now. We're going to just briefly discuss her. But at the same time, it's not enough substance to say, oh, he's a top 10 player. And that's the thing. When you have that wishy-washy middle of the pack resume and you don't have the wins to back it, not enough quality, he's going to have to be fishing, especially when we get to the next tournament. Not just round 1, but fishing for some good result. And you got to scoreboard well. You got to get a little lucky off the table. In this league, especially up here, when you get to the T4s and 5s, you got to get a little lucky with who you play. If you don't, tough luck.
Speaking as someone that hasn't gotten lucky in that regard, I concur.
Yeah, you're a great example, right? But let's go to where we had him in a sense. Andy. Now Andy was 13. He lost 3 spots from the original rank. Now you had him at 13. You kept him there.
I have him at 13.
I
Mainly
agree.
down to the fact of, again, I was trying my best that anytime someone got to 5 wins, I was moving ahead of Ashley. Is that going to be how I look at that T5? Probably not. So there is a shot, I would say, that if Gon or Ashley have a good can't say Ashley has a good tournament. That's if Gon has a good tournament and Andy doesn't, there's a shot, I would say, that both Gon and Ashley managed to move ahead of him, even if Ashley doesn't play the tournament.
Yeah, and you look at where Andy is. He averaged an 18th on the AP poll. Everyone really had him more in the general ballpark. I think someone had him low. Yeah, G and Yoshi had him at 20. I think
Brad 23.
Yeah, those guys had him low. I think you, me were high on him at 13. Lamas and Ard. Nah, they were having at 15, so they're about where we're at. Yeah, so and
Yoshi was at 20.
This is a great, for those of you listening at home, when you listen to this podcast, this is a great view of how people view things. Look, Sandfer and I don't agree all the time, but in this case, we said, okay, there's a threshold. I thought Andy had done enough to pass a certain threshold, put him higher than Ashley, right? I agree with what, I thought that was a good mindset to have. But some people like Brad or Yoshi or G, maybe say there's other metrics that we're missing. We have a discussion, and ultimately, 17, right? But if he's 18 on the AP poll, he's 1 spot. That's pretty much on the money where you want to be. So that even though it doesn't look good on paper from one person, if other people balance it out, we sometimes go with that. And that's the beauty of this system. Now, I'll just briefly touch on Ashley. I'm not even going to talk about her too much. It's just, whatever. Her made the finale T1. Obviously was 10th ranked, 13th now. Someone had her at 13. But I would just say for her, we wish her the best. But I guess the only question I have here is, someone, well, how is she, hasn't played 2 tournaments. We know she's missing a 3rd straight. Or, I'm sorry, not 2. She didn't play T4.
I was going to say, I think she had a round 1 exit in there.
Yeah, she lost to Mac. I thought that, can you believe that? Mac Johnson. Stack Johnson, but we'll talk about that in a little minute. But Ashley, yeah, despite not playing, moved into a place of still in Super League. Now, loses the quad 1 at the beginning of the season. Now it's down to quad 2. Probably going to drop out, but you never know. If everybody loses behind in an off chance, then maybe she's still somehow, some way, which is crazy, still there, right? 16, 17. Now, she may not make it, but it's to finish the year in the top 25, only playing 3 tournaments. Just shows how impressive she is. Now, we won't talk much about her, but
Well, either shows how impressive hers was or shows how bad the rest of it was
yeah,
below.
yeah. Which one is it, right? It's the old ad. It's the chicken or the egg, right? Now,
Might be a little bit of both.
including Ashley, we talked about this on Sunday, Sam, on the reveal show in the server. Who do you trust? Andy, Gon, Logan, Avian. I don't even want to know. I just want to know, who do you trust out of these 4? Give me a confidence scale from 1 to 5. Let's go with all 4 of them. Who do you trust? Start Andy. 5 being the best, 1 being the worst.
5 being the best, 1's the worst.
Oh, I guess 1 to 4. Give me 1 to 4. Who's the top you can trust? 1 being the least. Go ahead.
I guess out of the 4, I'd say Andy at the top, only because he at least doesn't have to work his way up on everyone's list. Then I'd probably say Gone 3 because he's at least beat some good people. And I'd probably go Logan 2, Abion 1. I think I actually will go in the same order that they are. The problem for Logan is we enter T5, which is going to typically be stream heavy with anything that's close. And I don't know if he's gone to the point where he's comfortable enough with streams, because I know that he typically doesn't usually like streams, but considering he finds himself around the bubble, he's going to have a lot of stream games. In an ideal world.
I would say for my confidence level, I would say that it's going to sound crazy, but I'm actually going to go. My top guy is going to actually be Andy, and here's why. Because Abion was in the spot last year, and he lost the Rad. Okay. Logan, ironically, was not. He was on house money, and same with Andy. They were on house money. But the one thing I do remember about Andy at the beginning, I played him, and I do remember at the beginning of the season, was when the pressure came, he could come back. He did beat Camaro 4-3. Now you think that's KT's supposed to win that game. He was down 3-1 with no card luck. I mean, most of that game he was shot out of a can, nothing. And then he found a way. I put him at number 4. Number 3 is probably going to be Abion. I think just because he's been in that spot, I think I can trust him a little, but you never know in his round 1. 2 is going to be low. I love Gon. I love what he's done, but I just don't know where his head's at, right? The problem is, even if, let's say, he makes it and gets in there, is he going to play soon? We don't know. That's another thing. His schedule is a little too out of control. I can't personally put him there to where I say he's confident. If he had no schedule and he played every tournament this year and he made a finale and, let's say, 2 Elite 8s, or even an Elite 8, a Sweet 16, he wouldn't be here first off in this spot. He'd probably be in the top 5 or 6. And number 2, I think it'd be probably one of the better rookie stories too, because we know Ashley was the rookie story last year, which is kind of a asterisk, more of a self-proclaimed rookie by name, or by title and tag, not name. But I think Gon would have been the rookie story personally if he had played. I know background for the rookie story this year, but I still think if Gon would have played every tournament, he could have been the story. But I'm going to say he'll be the least confident, only because we don't know. I'm going to throw Andy in there 4. I'll throw Avion 3, Logan 2. Now it gets good, Sandfer, because here's the buffer. Because we know Ashley's not coming back. At number 15 is Japez, and this is probably the first one where a lot of people actually, even Japez themselves, I don't mind being here because I haven't had. Now, the one caveat with him, as of now, we ended today, he would have the best average finish, which is a T5 metric. It's not a T4 metric. That's going to help him in the long run. Here's what I got on Japez. Pretty simple. 0-1 and 0-1 in quads 1 and 2. But the problem he's lurking is 7-2 in quad 3 and 4. Remember, he's got a DQ win the Grim. Is that what held him back? Because let's face it, 0.46 strength of schedule, and he doesn't have the quality because he is a quantity merchant right now. Would you say is a fair assessment?
I think it's a fair assessment. I don't know if I'm necessarily the right person to say what held him back, because AP poll wise, this is a bit unfair. He came in 11th on that. I was one of the ones that definitely helped that out for him because I had him in 12th. I wasn't the one that had him the highest. But For me, the DQ win didn't help. What helps him is in a year where we've had so much by Island, Yepes hasn't really been on it and still has found his way into the round of 32 every single tournament. Hasn't gotten a lot of help wins wise. When I look at his wins back in comparison to where they are at now on the list, even on my list, the highest win Yepes has on my own list is Cap at 26. So from that aspect, if you want to try and say that wins matter on my list, there's an evidence of why they don't necessarily. Although Yepes doesn't rank as high as some others. But he's got the consistency on most people. The problem is that when you compare wins, he does lose out on the strength schedule because the guys he's inherited as second, third round matches just haven't been it.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Yepes. The other thing I'm thinking about here is he's only got that one top 25 win, which I'm pretty sure was what? Captain? I think.
It was, and then so obviously now he doesn't. Yeah.
Right. And that's an uphill climb. Now, as I said, he'll have the T5 metrics coming into play with him, which will be the best average fan, which will carry some weight if he can maintain it.
But there's some people close to him, though, too.
Yeah, exactly. There's people close to him, which it's going to be borderline. He's going to be in the same spot he was last year. Realistically, the next person that could jump in is gone because Ashley's gone. There's a buffer. But he's going to have to...
I think that's what's going to help him this year is he's got a spot where he's going to be able to scoreboard watch, and he's going to have that buffer at least a little bit behind that he didn't necessarily have last year.
And we'll call it like it is. Yepes and Ard... Oh, actually, no. Wait a minute. Wait. You, me, G, Ard, all at 12. And Lamas at 11.
Yeah. Lamas at 11. I mean...
But the problem is 15 and 16 from Brad and Yoshi. There's where he kind of didn't get the rewards because he is 11th on the AP poll, but those two guys kind of held him back a little bit, and we went with more with it. So they got it right. We got it wrong. Looking back, I think we didn't miss. I think 15-14 was where he's going to map out. Would you say it's fair? I think for sure.
I think looking at where the wins are at now, that's probably fair. At the same time, it's hard to ignore how many wins he does have compared at this point in the year. But it does speak to the idea that Yepes doesn't have a whole lot of voices that he has to impress in T5 to make Super League. He's already starting it in the field right now if it started today. And the only voices he really needs to impress that are going to be in the commission room is Yoshi and Brad. If he can impress those people with his T5, then he's already in the list, close to the top 10 on everyone else's.
Yeah. For the other people, it's maintained. For Brad, you got to go out there and win. Well, I think we might as well just serve that on a silver platter, right, Sandfer? Guess who's next? Bad Brad himself. And for Brad, I'll keep in mind one thing about you, Pat, before I forget. He does have some quality, or not so quality tiebreakers he lost to. Brad being one of them, and Larry Hua, which we'll talk about, which was probably going to be the longest segment, other than Vapor. But yeah, this one, Brad. Now, for Brad, 6-4, we know what he did in T3. He's got the head-to-head over Yepes and Gold, of course. Partially due to that T3, mostly to that T3 run. But for Brad's tail of tape, it's the first guy that's in the top 16 with a little bit of a flaw, in my opinion. 2-1 in quad 1, no quad 2. 2-1 in quad 3, 2-2 in quad 4. Half his wins are in the top 25. He's got the .567 strength of scale, which is in the top 25. But Sandfer, how do we decipher and put him here? Because it is a glaring thing. You don't see a quad 2, but then you look at our resumes like, damn, there's some people that don't even have a winning quad 2. So do you really penalize that? Talk me through it.
I mean, yes and no. I think it depends on who he's being compared to. The one thing I'd also add here, and it goes towards that glaring hole, you look at Brad in terms of the runs, he loses out to some people there too, because yes, he's got a finale, but then his next best run is a Sweet 16 appearance. So he's in that boat where he also has had 2 tournaments where he didn't even make it out of the first round. So, and I'm trying to remember where those were. Off the top of my head and looking through the bracket.
Zach was one of them for sure.
Yeah, which Zach has a DQL, I think.
Background. It was background. First 2 tournaments, Zach and background. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's the problem as well when I look at it is it's hard to say that it's faulty to necessarily maybe even have him outside your top 16 in that situation, like I do. When he loses common opponent to people like Logan, even though he's got extra wins on top of Logan. And he does have some good ones. He does have the Yepes win. He's got a monkey win if it came down to it. He's got a gold win. So those are some wins that if on my list he's compared, he's got that edge in at least a category. And it did come into play on my list because I ended up comparing Brad and gold directly. And so what ended up happening is it was a close battle between those two. And so the head-to-head ended up winning out with Brad to have him ahead of gold on my list. That's not necessarily the case of how it happened on other people's list though. So it's a tough thing to measure is what I'm going to try and say basically on that. Because there's a lot of people that are missing just a quad somewhere.
Yeah, you look at some of the resumes around him. We'll talk about the next person ahead. It's the old adage debate. Where would you want to rather have a 0 and a goose egg? Of course, you would rather have a goose egg in quad 4. You don't want to have none there. But would you rather have a goose egg in quad 2 or 1? You give me the goose egg in quad 2. Quad 1 is the echelon, the best of the best. So, in a way, it nets out from. Now, looking at Brad, someone had him, I believe, 10. Now, he was 14, so he didn't move. Let's look at who had him 10. Let's find out. Was it Yoshi?
Yoshi.
Yeah.
It actually wasn't Brad, ironically enough, considering how often the highest ranked we can probably mention it being Brad's list. It wasn't Brad in this case, although Brad did have himself 13th.
Brad 13. Where'd you have him? I forgot.
I had him at 18.
Okay.
Which was the same spot as Lamas.
And I had him at 17, or I had him at 16, and then G had him at 13. Okay.
13.
So in reality, it's again, a neutral split. What was that?
And he did end up 15. It was all over the board. He ended up averaged out to 15th in terms of the point total.
So in reality, you can't say we missed. It was right there thanks to the AP. We all were all over the board. It worked itself out. I think the tiebreakers, right? Losing the background hurts. But he has good tiebreakers too. Like you said, Gold's a good example in Yepes. So really, I think, what do you think, Sandfer? A dose of scoreboard watching for Brad? I think a lot of these guys now could do it. He's got a bigger buffer than Yepes. And he's got Yepes, right? Of course. We know Ashley doesn't count. Then you got Andy, and then you got to look at Gon to make a run. I think he can actually be a little bit comfortable, but not too comfortable. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Well, I'd say he definitely can't be too comfortable. I will say that seeing as, because we've done the new quads, knowing where his quad records are sitting right now, that is probably a fair thing to say that he's at the luxury of, because his quad resume now is sitting a lot better than where it was when we were doing the list meeting for this reveal.
Ironically, Brad is on the commission team, and at the end of the day, it's one of those situations where he tries to be unbiased and all that, but it's one of those cases where I think Brad's comfortable, because last year, while he was locked in going for a regular season championship, I do know this about Brad. When he needs to lock in and find wins, he has that energy where he can do it. We saw last year in T3 where he was down in the dumps after that specific T2 loss to M, and he just every single time locked in and found a way. I wouldn't be shocked if he can get 1 or 2 more wins in T5 and use that T4 momentum where he did get a Sweet 16 and just put himself in a position where he's good. So I'm not worried about Brett just yet. Now this next person is a little bit more of the best rookie of the season for now. Took a 17 place jump, which is background. Tail of the tape is nice though. 2-1, quad 1. It's good. Now another 2-1 in quad 2. 2-2 in quad 3 and a quad 4. This is what you want in a resume. 100%, because it's 3 out of 7 wins in the top 25 is a little bit underwhelming compared to some of the people around. But at the same time, Sandfer, I think it needs to be changed. Actually, I think it's 4. Excuse me, 4 out of 7. But still, it's good. It's solid, and you look at background character. I think it's done enough to move. Now, sure, it loses out to some tiebreakers, of course, to Varigold and Jay Caesar, which we'll talk about. But it's a solid resume, and I think looking where that strength of schedule is, looking at the overall where everyone had him, I think we could have been a little bit better with them. But at the same time, I think at the end of the day, being this 13th spot's not the worst spot, especially for a rookie. Would you say it's the fairest assessment for him? And how did you try to rank? I know you have a little bit more down. I as well did.
Yeah, I was actually the farthest down on background. And it's worth mentioning in the new ranking, in this ranking, that out of 7 wins, actually 5 of them end up being in top 25 out of what we have. I mean, we've already talked about 4 of them. We've talked about 3 of these 5 now that he's got. But he's got technically 5 wins in what is the new top 25, which will help. For me, what it came down to is, yes, he won the consistency battle in terms of against anyone that has a round of 64 or first round exit. But when you're looking at the entire criteria list, it is somewhat hard to ignore that it's been feast or famine a little bit, in the sense that he couldn't get outside the round of 32 until this tournament. And he does find himself in that tricky little, well, player A beat player B, and player B beat player C, and then player C beat player A. And to me, he ends up being that player C. And in this case, as player C, he couldn't get past player B, and player B couldn't get past player A. And so that's why on my list it ends up being that it's Brad Varigold background right there at 18th, 19th, 20th.
Yeah, that's the one thing I want to emphasize. We are still learning how to deal with this Bermuda Triangle of head-to-heads and so close resumes. Because when you're in this Bermuda Triangle, you got to put yourself in our shoes if you're a list maker. And you got 3 players that 1A have a head-to-head over someone. We're going to talk about the Bermuda Triangle. I think it's going to be Caesar. I'll spoil it. Caesar's next. So Caesar, he beat background. But background beat Brad. Right? And Brad, who did he beat? That was in the triangle. Yepes. Right? So that's not even a triangle. That's like, what is that? A hexagon? A rectangle. A little rectangle there, a square. So, Bermuda Square. There's so many nuances with this system where it's good, but when you start getting to squares and triangles and hexagonal things, and resumes are close, and you got to really decipher what's good and what's bad, sometimes you get lost in the shuffle. But let's go real quick to Brad. Let's look where we had him, or not Brad, background care, where we had him on the list. Obviously, you said 20, right?
I mentioned I was 20th, which you were 19, so it wasn't like it was that far off.
No, and I said at the meeting I was negotiable. Lamas had him at 17. G had him at where? Let's see. G had him at 9.
He was 9th, so was Yoshi. Brad had him at 8. And then Ard was 18. So it's like, you can see a little bit where you have like the 4 of us have almost a somewhat similar style, and then it was G, Yoshi, and Brad kind of have a different way of seeing it. They viewed background's recency a lot higher than where the other 4 of us did.
Ironically, well, the recency didn't win out because he was 14th, and what we didn't win it. It was the middle. It was down the middle, and that's sometimes when that happens, it's not the worst thing because you always will find a medium ground. What's the old adage? Mean median mode. There's the median right there. Now,
well, as the classic Diamond Rio song says, we meet in the middle.
Hey, Sometimes that's what we gotta do, baby. Me in the middle. Now, I'm gonna say this much about this next guy. I want to preface this. This man, his whole career, has been nowhere when it comes to the one word
Resumes
he
have
can't.
stunk.
Yeah, resume is not Jason. Now we can talk freely because he didn't make one. Of course, he'll make one for T5. But let's get to the tail of the tape for Jay. Plus 11 on the scoreboard. He got the Final Four. He got the revenge on Arya. Got 100 career regular season wins. By the way, only 7 to do it. And he's having a career year. Now, we'll talk about one of the funny things about this whole list thing in a minute. But here's Jay. 1-1 in quad 1, 0-2 in quad 2, and then he's got the 6-1 in quad 3 and 4. Now you think, well, okay, on paper it's terrible, but 1-8 in quads, or 1 out of 8 in the top 25 wins. However, what did I say? The tiebreaker over background is big. Some of those wins aging are going to age well, and after we do we'll talk about the reshuffle. It's not bad for Jay, and you look at where he's been in the past. Where if he had 8 wins in the past, you would think, oh God, it's a great. Yeah, most of them, or 7, right? But let's say most in the past. Let's say he had 7 wins, 5 or 6 of them in quad 3 and 4. He couldn't buy a quad 1, let alone a quad 2. This year, he's got what? 4 quad 1. Is this Jay Caesar we're talking about? Thoughts on Caesar's resurgence for sure.
Now, like he had Goldie win was quad 4, now moved up to quad 3. Drip win was quad 4, now it's in quad 3. Yoshi stayed quad 3. I mean, he's got Arya in there that now has moved into the top 25. He had a Mac win already. That stayed top 25. Now adds background who moved into the top 25. Like, this is a resume that we've talked about, and you've talked about it, and we've talked about it privately, how Brad sometimes gets hit, or generally gets hit really hard on reshuffles. Caesar got blessed on this reshuffle. Like, T4 was a blessing for Caesar. For me, I'll speak to at least where he ended up on mine. Realistically, he loses out on the consistency to Yepes because that was the direct comparison I had. But the wins that he had helped propelled him ahead of Yepes. And at the time that I was doing it, the person that he was directly behind, I liked their wins better. Those wins didn't necessarily age as well. So Caesar in a prime spot to maybe even if he and the person ahead of him both lose, it's very likely he still even moves ahead of that other person just on the ground of the reshuffle.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what to think about Caesar too, because you think about it, he's probably one of the most established guys in the league that's never made Super League. From a Super League perspective, I can't say he's safe. You would think, okay, he's a commission member, right? He's been in the league. He should know the system. But yeah, he's never been here, and we don't know what he'll do with this responsibility. With great power comes responsibility. He's got some power now. What's he going to do in this league? And we've seen hangovers. Let's not forget about Ard. We talked about Ard. We talked about Acosta even after his T3 run, right? Abion. What do they do? They didn't do much in T4. And we don't know what this is going to be for Jay. So he's got to keep his head up, head on the swivel. Now, I want to emphasize this. He's 9th on the AP poll, but there's one glaring outlier. Brad had him 5th. I mean, that is, yeah, that's a little high. Oh man,
it's not the last time Brad's going to be out kind of on the island a little bit.
Oh no, he's on island. There's by island and then there's out there island. But fair play to him because if you look at it, other people had him. I know you had him 10th. I had Lamas had him 9th or 11th. Lamas had him 10th. I had him 11th. G had him 11th. Art had him 10th.
Yoshi was 12.
Right.
So yeah. That
outlier.
10 to 12 range, right about where he should have been.
Yeah, it's an outlier. 100%. Yeah, 100% outlier from Brad. But at the same time, what are you going to do? You know, what are you going to do? It's one of those situations where if you mess up, you mess up. And at least it worked out in the end. So, props to Jay. You know, he didn't even make a list. I think if he did, I think he said he would have put himself around 12th, 13th, so it worked out for him too. And the last person of this Was that?
So I said ended up 9th on the AP poll thanks to Brad. So
Yeah, it worked out in the end. Even if we take the outlier out, probably would have been around there anyway. Now, the last guy of the 11th through 15th group, be Lane. He'd been here before, but you look at him. It's been I'm going to be brief with this one. The 7 out of his 8 wins are in quad 3 and 4. If he doesn't have that Andy win, which is 1-1, and then the 0-3 in quad 1, which are good losses, but it's the DJ thing going on from last year. That .484 resume on the strength of schedule is a little bit better than your past because at least he has the Andy win. But if you look at this Sandfer, this is a guy that is in the same spot as last year in a sense. Has to rely on quantity, and he's a quantity player. And that's not a bad thing, but you got to go out there and win round 1 and 2. Thoughts on Lane being 11? I trust him a little more than last year because we have data. Well, your thoughts on Lane being here and how you try to rank him because he's definitely a quantity merchant.
yeah, and I think every player that we'll talk about that was a quantity player, I think ended up in my top 10. Lane was actually in my top 9. So if you want to look at like breaking down my list based on who I said would have been a quad 1 player, I had Lane right on that fringe of quad 1. What I liked about it is he's got the quantity and he's fairly consistent about it. It's not like, oh, here's a round of 32. I'm going to jump up to the Elite 8, go back to round of 32, and then maybe another round of 32. He's got 2 Sweet 16s. He's got an Elite 8. He's made it. He's never been out in round 1 this year. Hasn't had the bye island to help him really do that either. The problem is the wins just aren't really there. He's not getting the help on it. He got a little bit of help with hockey moves up to quad 3. But he almost traded that. He almost traded that in that as a quad 3 win for having Clay fall to quad 4. That said, I'd say if he can get he's the one of those guys that I think 1 win clinches him basically for Super League, I would say, based off where the field's at. But he's done a good job to kind of average that Sweet 16 so far.
Yeah, I'm impressed with Lane about more off-table things, I guess you could say, because he's definitely turned his composure around. He's turned his whole mindset around. I always go back to that game where he was down 3-0 against Tapir back in T3 last year, and really ever since then, he's taken off like a rocket ship. But I think for Lane, I think you're right. I think he just needs 1 win. He's got more than a buffer. I think he's got more of a cushion, more than a buffer, really nice cushion, nice soft cushion, and I don't think Lane cares about between you. I don't think Lane cares about group stage, man, or buys. He just wants to be in the.
Either, considering he was in the group stage last year. He was close enough to getting out of it. I mean, realistically, I think he was basically like a turn or 2 away from being out of the group stage.
Yeah, let's not forget he's 6-0 DJ in group stage level. That's something to say the least. That series has always been just boom or bust.
The beginning of the end of DJ Curtis, basically.
Oh yeah, you. Oh yeah,
things will be investigated on that in the off season.
You know what the crazy part about that whole thing too is what DJ Curtis was 2 turns away from being Jesse Turner, but got 6-0 against Lane. I think you beat him 5-1 or something, or maybe it was 6-0. I don't remember. That's just wild to think about. It's wild. It's wild to think about.
Didn't he get 2 6-0s?
It was either. It wasn't JT. It wasn't JT. It was somebody else in your group. Was it? Oh shit!
I think he got 6-0 twice.
Was it Ghost?
Either way,
I don't remember. But it was somebody that 6-0 twice. But regardless,
either way, on Lane, I mean, you look at 3 of us had him 9th. It was you, me, and Ard. Lamas had him down 12, which is I think the one main discrepancy I can think of between Lamas had from us 3. If you want to look at it as the group of 4 between me, you, Lamas, and Ard, and then G, Yoshi, Brad.
You look at the G, Yoshi, Brad. They had him at 14th, and where did Brad have him? 12th.
Brad had him. 12th. Where? Oh, there 12th, he is.
Yeah. Where Lamas was. Okay. Yeah, it's a little hard when you don't have season. Let me see if I can just. Yeah, that'd be better. Just get rid of that for now, just to make it easier.
Well, you didn't have to do that. Hold on. Just Control Z.
Got you. Doing this on the fly, folks. That's just how we do it in the live pod. There we go.
There you
Yeah,
go.
for now. That for now. I mean, that will help us out with our eyes. Anyway, Lane came in at 10 in the AP ranking. Yeah, that's the only difference between us four. I think Lana's having a little lower. But you know what? Fair play, because at the end of the day, it worked out. So, not a big deal. So now the question I asked you, Sandfer, which one of these 5 actually has a chance to squeak in to the bye contention? Who do you think can maybe get to the bye, or maybe the first group stage?
Who can get to a bye? Ooh, okay.
That's the question.
That's actually okay. That's a proper way of probably phrasing that.
Because let's face
So
it,
I'm looking
if we just say bubble, all these people have experience other than background, but background has D2 chip experience. I think a better question is who can get to a bye, for sure.
who of these 5 has a good T5 gets to the bye. I'm going to go outlandish a little bit and say the most likely of them is going to be Brad. I'll go out to left field a little bit on it.
You gonna go with Brad?
I'll go with Brad.
This is gonna sound crazy. I think Jay Caesar is probably gonna be the guy for me, and I know it sounds wild, but as much as I think the other, here's the thing: I would have said Yapet, but he loves group stage. We see what he did. I don't think it matters for him. He can come from the field. Lane, I think he's a guy that if he did, what was that?
I said he just cares about getting in. He doesn't want to miss out again.
Lane only care about getting in. Yapet only care about getting in. Brad, I think he would like to buy for sure. He's even said that. But some tell me,
and I like what his resume improved on the reshuffle compared to Caesar.
Absolutely. So. I agree there. But I'm just going to think Jay's going to, because he doesn't have the reshuffle maybe in his favor a little bit, maybe he turns up and says, you know what? I don't normally go for anything. Maybe this is the one time where I shop. Because remember, who had him beating Arya? Honest to God. Nobody. Even I've like, oh, this is not going to look good. And he's proved us wrong. So maybe he has that motivation, intrinsic motivation, to say, I'm going to prove these guys wrong. So I think Jay's going to have something in the back foot, Maybe he's going to have a little ocean vibe. I don't know. Maybe a little ocean vibe like it has in the graphic there what Cody Lamas made with the Super League Thailand right there. A little ocean vibe. We'll see if he can get it. But he's lit the candle ever since his birthday on June 22nd. And we gave him that. We blew out the candles on the cake, and he's done a good job right there. But we'll see how it'll be for Jay. I got him moving into a bye. All right, Sandfer, you ready? Because here we go. Here's Controversy City. This is when it gets...
yeah. At least this is where it seemed to be.
Okay, well, let's get to it. Here's Varigold's resume for the people in the back, I guess. 1-2, 1-0 in quad 1. You got the MAC win, and then 0-2 in quad 2. And then 7-2 in quads 3 and 4. Has a DQ Brian win. 0.541 schedule, 2 out of 9 in top 25. Here's my thinking on this. I'm not going to criticize Noah because I understand that everyone can see what we do. When I see 7 out of 8 wins in the top, basically 20, let's go with 26 down back, or most from 26 down back in quad 3 and 4. You got to penalize that a little bit. You can't just say, well, it's good enough to be in the top 5. I think 10th is fair. He does have the 2 back-to-back Final Four, but let's not forget he lost the Bo and Tago. Can those age well? Maybe. Tago, okay, we can trust him. We've seen him in TV. Bo, I have no idea. But your thoughts on this one, because we're going to spend a lot of time on these next couple people. So your thoughts on Varigold for sure.
Yeah. Well, ironically enough, I was the lowest one on Varigold at 18 or 19. I mean, but for me, obviously, first off, like I said, when I mentioned Brad, he loses out the head-to-head Brad, which didn't help. Brad also beat Tago, who Gold lost to, which didn't help either. And so, yes, he's had the back-to-back Final Fours. Yes, there's not many people that have done it. You look at Ashley did it. You look at I did it in 23. And yes, Ashley and myself, we both made Super League. But at the same time, when we did that feat, we also made sure that the other tournaments around that, we didn't lose round one. I had one round one in a play-in on my first ever tournament and then came back and revitalized. But I didn't lose in round one in the T5 and out of the 4 tournaments. Ashley had like the best rookie season we will ever see. So the problem here is Gold in the other 2 tournaments where he didn't make the final 4. He went out round one to 2 players who this year haven't made it past the second round. Bowtie, 2 round 2 exits. Gold and Leo, there's his 2 wins. That's it. Tago, 2 round 2 exits. H and Gold are his only 2 wins. So it's not good losses there to have under any circumstance. It's hard to really try and argue that those are things that can be justified on his resume, like looking back now. And so with both of those being, there's not many people that have 2 quad 4 Ls and even make the top 25, let alone end up in a Super League field. That's basically where it ended up stemming for me.
Yeah,
I think I'm pretty sure he's the only one in our top 16 that actually would have had 2.
Yeah, and the thing with
Brad,
Gold,
but
yeah, Brad too. But the thing with Gold, he's got a 27 basically on the average finish, right? Which a lot of people have that 26.50, which is kind of funny. But I haven't seen enough to where I say those runs have been good, because you look at those runs, look at some of those wins on those runs. ALP, we know where he's at. James Ellison, okay, getting better, but in this case is a quad 4 win. Good win against Mac. Brian DQ, that's just unfortunate, right? Good win against Background now, aged well, and then lost to Vapor. But even in Movie May, we talk about it. Look at the people he beat in Movie May. Once again, Caesar, there's the head-to-head. That's good. Clay, fringe quad 3, could be quad 4 any moment. Peter, now quad 3, lost top 25 win there. Ard, unfortunately, had a good T3, but that's about it. And then he lost to Brad, right? And Brad's got the head-to-head there. But ultimately, it cleared Brad a little bit because he has 8 wins versus 6. Real wins. And 9-6 overall. I think the problem here, Sandfer, is the eye candy, man. I think now as we start to age a little bit more in this league, we get this resume stuff, just because you have a good Final Four run twice, there's more to the eye test than just 2 Final Four runs. I hate to say it, because if you look at that, a lot of those are quad 4 wins, those are cupcake wins. And while some of them aged well, which is good, like Background, for example, Jay Caesar even, not all wins are going to be created equal, in a sense that I agree we shouldn't have quad 4 and 1 discrepancy. We shouldn't be, oh my God, overblown. But at the same time, you have to reward the guys that have done good wins and good runs by being the right people. And that, once again, goes to you have to have a little luck. Now, let's get to the rankings on this one, because this is an eye-opener.
All over the board?
Yeah, let's start with number 3. We got Brad picking goal. That is Brad, once again, on an island, out there island. I understand it, but there's the big outlier. Now, you had him at where? Let's see.
I had him 19, which is ironically enough where he was last time out. You had him at 18. Lamas was at 16. Ard was down there with us at 17.
So. There's G at 8.
Yoshi had him at 11. So
yeah, ultimately, Yoshi was the closest. But yeah, I mean, 3 and 19. That is a
range.
That is a range and a half. Ultimately, the AP poll said 13. He was a 10. I think deep down he is a top 10 player, but it's fringe. It's definitely fringe. It's not solidified. I know Varigold made Super League in 23 and won that tournament, but now it's starting to come back to the research. I don't know what to say about Varigold. I think I have another question with the 10-6 people a little bit later. But I don't know, because Varigold right now would be in a weird spot. I just can't say yes or no to either It'd be Group A. Would be in Group A. And I'm not sure where to put Varigold personally on my confidence scale, because if Varigold can go out there and make another Final Four, we're good. Varigold can go out there and lose round one. or, the first time they play.
I mean, if he can make Sweet 16, I think it justifies the idea of him being in the top 16 at the very least. That's basically where he's got because of the discrepancy in where we're at as a whole. He's the one person who, even though they're in this spot, I think they still need a Sweet 16 run. Otherwise, they might be in trouble.
Yeah, hard to read. A little bit more of a wild card would be the right word, I think. But we'll see. I guess because of the ranking season. All right, I guess we had no choice, Sandfer. We're caught. We have to explain this one. Oh, boy. Larry Huo gets a 19-spot jump, and here's the resume. Now, before people come at our throats, here's what I'm going to say about it. It's not the best, I understand, but look, it's 2-2 in quad 1, 1-0 in quad 3, 2-1 in quad 2, 2-1 in quad 3, 0-1 in quad 4. Basically 0.59 strength of schedule. It did take a little bit of a hit in the reshuffle, which we'll talk about. Why is he here? Because personally, I didn't think he'd get to 9. I thought for sure 11th was the right, 11, 12. I thought it would be the right area. We put him in the quad 1. Thoughts on this one, because this is going to be a long comment. I want to hear your thoughts. I have some comments on this one too.
So I guess I'll preface this by saying I didn't have Lara at 9. Most of us did not have Lara at 9. And we talk about the who you win should matter. At the time of this, you have to look at the fact that we were having to look at the idea that KT and Yepes were quad 1. Chomik, I believe, was quad 2. Clay was at least a little bit better placed quad 3. And even Bowtie was at least still quad 3. None of those were terrible wins. At the time of this, Lara at least had all their wins were in quad 3. I think, was it 2 or was it 3 of these were top 25?
Lara? 3 out of 5. Yep.
It's 3, because Chomik was quad 2. He was 18th.
That changed, but still.
The problem is, yes, it does. Even upon further review, I would say even 10 on my list was probably too high. But what ended up winning out is the idea that he beat the right people at the right time. Having a KT win is never going to be a bad thing, especially when KT can kind of pick and choose when he's going 100%, shall I say.
Also, Yepes win. That helped for sure.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. He had 2 wins that at the time were quad 1. He had 3 top 25 wins, and nothing was lower than the Bowtie win, which came in at the very fringe of quad 3.
Yeah, the volume's there in quad 1, and ultimately,
there wasn't many people that had 2 quad 1 wins. Yeah,
that's not. I think we saw this last year with, ironically, myself. I was 3-0 in quad 1, right? And that carried me basically no one else was close to that, and they all came in T1. So for Lara, it's been just a lot more of an electric season, basically on the upper end scale players. And yeah, you take them while you can get them, man. You need some luck. You don't always get those players, and he wasn't going to get me. Remember, if he doesn't win against Chom, that's Chom getting the win potentially. And then I didn't. Do I change my strategy if Chom playing it? Probably. I know Chom been there. Lara never been there, right? It's going to be an interesting thing with Lara, though, because I can't say Lara's locked in at all. I know there's a historical stat. If you're in the top 8 entering the last reveal, you always make it. But, man, I don't know.
Well, to be fair, Lara's not in top 8. Lara would still not hold that. Lara's 9.
Right. But I know someone's going to say, what's the ceiling? Where do you see Lara next tournament? If Lara goes out there and wins and makes a Final Four, justified. For sure. Could even get a bye. if Lara goes out there and loses round 1, there's no way he's safe. I can't say firmly he's going to be 100% safe. It's going to depend on what happens behind him. And now that we have the reshuffle, I don't know. It's borderline, right? Because Yepes isn't in quad 1 anymore. I'm still there. But there's still a lot to come with this one. And you look at where we put him.
Well,
I mean,
Lamas, who wasn't even at the meeting when we talked about it, was the one that had him at 9. And that's the only 9th that was there. So
you and me,
it tells you that when we brought up the whole resume, someone made a very good case. Because to have Lara basically win out over Marigold means someone argued a very good case on Lara's behalf that didn't necessarily have Lara ranked that highly before.
You and me had him at 10, right? Okay.
Yes.
Art had him at 12, but this one
was at 9.
Right.
G was down at 17, Yoshi at 18, Brad at 17.
So once again, this is you could see a clear line. There's definitely two schools of thought. We have 4 people that are very, how do I put it, more.
I'd say all are like criteria focused, maybe.
Yeah. I think there's definitely a borderline of what people want in a resume, what they want in overall in the criteria. Some look at recency, some look at what you've done for me. I understand, but there's 4 that kind of stick out. And there's Brad sometimes a little out there, Yoshi a little bit out there sometimes. G, I think G's got a good grasp of things sometimes.
He has. I know he does. I don't know. He's explained it to us, and I know he's got a formula that goes into it. I know what he does. He looks at the number of wins someone has, and then so he compares everyone. Like he'll compare everyone that's in the 7-win group, and then he'll take the 7-win group and see if he can't move them ahead based off of what's in there. I just don't know fully what goes into it.
I think this is a good convo to have though, because we have schools of thoughts, and you look at the AP poll. Ultimately, it ended up being where Art had Lara, I believe, right? Yeah, around 11, 12. So that where Art had it ended where Lara ended up in the AP poll. Of course, the tiebreaker with Yepes helps. Eventually, maybe if you can get up there, but I don't think it's the worst resume. Deep down, should he probably been a quad 2? But yeah, are we stressing? No. Now this next person coming up. Go ahead.
I said not after T4 at least.
No. Now this next person coming up, another controversial one, because you look at Toaster Guy, you think, hey, 9 win. Well, once again, here we go. Tail of the tape. Toaster Guy is a whopping 8-1 in quads 3 and 4 versus 1-4 in quads 1 and 2. So basically, the only thing that's carrying him, is he's being enough of the people that have enough of a strength of schedule in quad 3 to carry a little bit, but the 3 quad 1Ls are ridiculous. Monkey, Nick, who's the other one?
I think it's you, isn't it?
No.
Or no, it was Myth. That's what it was.
Myth. Now, you look at that, he's going to have a quad 1 win in Vapor, I believe, and Lara
one
too.
in Lara.
Yep. So it's going to age well, and that 0.567 strength is ridiculous with most of your stuff in quad 3, but it's because of the quad 1. Thoughts on? I think this is a good place to have. I know there's a lot of he should be up there higher, but once again, it's very similar to Varigold. A lot of that's back end heavy, not front end heavy. The only difference is he's got a front end heavy strength of schedule with the losses, good quality lot, which helps his SOS.
Yeah, and this I can't say it's not fair. I had him at 7. So what I liked about Toasty is I've brought it up before and others talking about consistency. He wins the consistency battle against anyone else in the field. And I'll explain why. Yes, there's very few people. There's people that have 2 final. There's not many. There's Varigold that has 2 Final 4s. No one else can say that. But Toasty can say that he's got 2 Elite Eights, 1 Sweet 16 exit. He's also never been out of the round, out in the first round this year. So for me, that helps him when I'm looking at the idea that peak run versus consistency. I usually try to favor the consistency. And so he also carries some good head-to-heads. When I compared him to Vapor, it ended up being basically a tie. Even when trying to reanalyze this, I couldn't separate their quad resumes enough to really actually give that one an edge. And it came down to, even when trying to reanalyze it, if I gave Vapor the edge in quad resume, they're tied 3-3, and then Toasty still has the head-to-head. Vapor's got a tournament win, which tiebreaker really matters more. I can't think of a time where that's ever been the case of trying to decide which tiebreaker mattered more, a tournament win or a head-to-head. Can you?
Yeah, this is.
I can't think of any time. Can you?
A tiebreaker?
Tiebreaker where one person had head-to-head and the other person had tournament win.
I mean,
I guess technically you and Mac maybe now.
Yeah, me
that's
stacked over there. Yeah.
But again, that's the one that's happening this year. Like before this year, we've never had to have that discussion. And I guess that's part of it too, is because when you two are tied, the problem is your head-to-heads is mattering. So why it's hard for me to argue that Toasty shouldn't matter, even though the difference between them ends up being 4 wins.
This is the consequences of new. It is. You know what you say when you've never experienced something, you don't have the data, you don't have the history to back up whatever. This is the consequences of not really parity, the consequences of new situations where we don't have these unique parity. We're talking about a tournament winner and a guy that's not parity. That's almost a case of we've had 2 dominant guys, but their difference. It's a head-to-head versus a tournament. It's once again like a triangle, but I don't know. It's a giant circle of endless. We can go into a debate here, but I'm not sure what I think about it. I think Toaster guy. Let's go to the list. Let's see what people have. And you look at where Toaster was.
And in fact, actually, it's worth mentioning. We hadn't mentioned it yet, but you and I, we had the exact same top 13. The only difference was we flipped Vapor and Toasty. You had him at 7 and Toasty at 8. I had Toasty 7, Vapor 8. That was the only difference we had.
Lamas had him at 8. Yep.
Lamas had him at 8. G was at 10. Yoshi actually was the highest at 6.
Yes.
Ard was also at 8, and Brad was down at 11.
He ended up 8. Personally, if I had a redo, if I had a redo, honest to God, I probably would still keep him around 8th. I don't. Maybe 7th. There's a case over Mitt. There's a small case over Mitt, which we'll talk about next. But I think we got Myth and Toasty generally right, and the next guy is Myth. Let's get to it. I'm not going to say too much about this because I think we got him right, and I think everyone even said that. 7-4, 41-33. Now he's getting close to that average, 16 points. He's right there. He's made 2 Elite 8s. He's got the final 4, and it's simple for Myth. It's 3-2 in quads 1-2, 2-0 being quad 2, 1-2 quad 1, 1-2 in quad 3, and then 3-0 in quad 4. But 5 out of those 7 wins are in the top 25. He's gotten great wins. Now, some of it aged poorly. Like Cap's gone, right? Or not Cap. Who's gone? Somebody left. I don't remember who.
You're looking at Miss?
Yeah. Who left his top 25? Was it?
No one. He had 4.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, that's right. No, you're right. So no one's left.
He had 4 before. He has 4 after. Ghost, Logan, Vapor, Toasty. It was the same.
I don't know why it says 5 there. Okay, it needs to be changed. Okay. All good. Meant 4. My bad. Yeah, realistically, I think this is where he needs to be. What do you think, Sam? I don't think we got him wrong. I think everyone said that, too. He was where he should have been. Even with the .56 strength of schedule, it's up there.
It's close enough to where I had him. I mean, he comes in 7th on the AP poll, so again, average wise, it's right there. What I will say is what carried him on my list is that head to head, because he has the head to head over the two people I have at 7 and 8. And yeah, he's got a Final Four as well that tops what Tosi has a little bit. The problem for Myth is going to be he has 2 second round exits, and he does have a few appearances on Bye Island, which doesn't help you in the win totals compared to some people. So it's the one negative that can come from it. Like, yes, Bye Island guarantees you into the second round, which helps with the peak runs, but it hurts you on the series record criteria that we look at as well. So at the end of the day, do you want to be on Bye Island? Do you not? You can always have that discussion. With 9 coming up, it's hard to avoid it when you're at the top of the bracket. So, to me, it basically came down to the head-to-head at the end of the day. I'm pretty sure it was pretty close with him and Toasty. It was the comparison that I ended up making.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about this one because you look at Mitt's resume, it's pretty good, and he doesn't care if he makes Super League on a bye or a group stage. He just wants to be in it. And everybody generally had him pretty locked. And you had him at what? You had him at 6.
You and I both had him at 6.
Lamas 7.
7. He was 7. Ard was 7. Brad was 9.
Yoshi 8. Yeah, Brad definitely all over the map. There's no doubt. There's definitely a.
But on this one, to say that the spread for Myth was as high as 6 and as low as 9.
That's not bad. Not bad.
It tells you that we all kind of had Myth, same general idea of where he belonged.
Realistically, Brad been all over the map, but in this one, I think where he needs to be 7 on the AP poll, he should be right here. I don't see why he wouldn't be.
And just misses out right now on that double buy on the buy.
Right, and that's. Don't think he cared. Now we start today. Who would be the group leaders? It'd be Myth
and Toasty.
It'd be Group A, Group B, and then I don't remember how it's paired. Whoever's 9th is Group B. So Lara.
So 7 and A, 8, 9 B, 10, 11 A. So Gold Lane would be with Myth. Toasty Lara would be in the same. 12, 13 B. So Caesar background. 14, 15 in A. 16 would have been in B, which goes to Andy at 17.
Jesus. It's all over the map. This is. And you kind of keep.
So Group A, to recap, I guess. Group A would be Myth, Gold, Lane, Brad, Yepes. Which I think Yepes was in that same spot when he won the thing too. He was the bottom of that group.
That is crazy.
And then the Group B would have been Toasty, Lara, Caesar background, and Andy.
Yeah, I want to look at this list. Let's look at the people 7 through 16. Well, excluding Ashley. Myth, first timer. Toasty last year. Lara new. Gold 23. Lane 24. Caesar, BC new. Brad 24. Yepes World Champ 23. Andy new. It's a wide variety, right? We don't have any consistency. Class-wise, let's see. Veteran, novice, master, veteran, master, rook, legend, novice. It's all over the board. It's great, but you wonder if we start a group stage today, who would. I don't know. I can't predict who would make it out. I really don't know because a lot of these guys are unknowns. We don't know, and no power. There's no JT. If Yepes is the one guy I would trust for sure, and I almost would trust Lane because of the EXP from last year and Toaster guy. I don't know about the rest. We don't know. Varigold, 2023, but remember, that was a different 2023. You had to make the top 2, and you were transferred into the Final Four. Right. This is to get to the round of 12. There's a lot different changes from 2 years ago. So the night changed quick. But let's get to the last guy, the 6 through 10, and it's probably the most controversial guy, right, in Vapor.
Well, it depends on who you ask.
Yeah, if you ask Vapor himself, yeah, anyway, it was a firecracker moment. Here we go. He's 1-2 in quad 1, 0-1 in quad 2, 10-0 combined in quad 3. It's 4-0 in quad 3, 6-0 in quad 4, and then a .53 strength of schedule. 4 out of 11 wins, top 25. Here's the thing, right? Some people are going to say, okay, Sandfer, 11 wins, chalk him up to number. Okay. But we want to find I understand we want to find a balance.
On the list that they had that.
We want to find a balance of Q1, Q2, Q3. I understand that. We also want to find a balance of recency, but you don't want to just say the latest run was good. Now, let's look at some of his latest runs, right? His latest run to win that tournament were the following people. Damn good win against Varigold. It's good now. Caesar, great. Can't even complain there, right? Why would you? But again, G, looking good. But then the back end, right? You got Lamas, moved up, Acosta, and then Jenna. You go to T3, though, right? This is where he also made a decent-sized run. If I can pull that up. M, and then he had Ziemba, right? The M win, then he had the Ziemba. T2, on any given year, you'd think, like, of course, it'd be Camaro, but this is where he got most of those quad 4 and 3 wins. Camaro, any given year, you think Tago's great. He swept Tago, but that's a quad 4 win. Peter, now quad 3, and then he lost to Myth. And then, of course, in March, he went 1-1. He beat Steve and then lost to Toasty. The problem is, Sandfer, he beat too many people at the back end of the field. And it's to no fault of Vapor's own, none of those guys in the back end of the field did any favors or solids for him. Is that a fair assessment? Otherwise, I think if he had 2 or 3 of those people make a run, he's in contention for a top 4, 100%. Is that a fair assessment?
I think it's a perfectly fair assessment. You look at Vapor, the positives, he's now got a tournament win, so he's going to have... Technically, he has an edge. If anyone was at 11 wins, he technically has the edge on series record because he'd have a better winning percentage. And he's got another Elite 8 run. So he's got 2 deep runs in him. The problem is, like you said, there's 2 round 2 exits, which, I mean, is a little bit more common inside the top 5 this year than I think you or I would like there to be. And he's got wins against people that just, like you said, haven't helped any. And it's people that also haven't helped me either in some cases. But to me, I tried my hardest to figure out how to move him ahead without it just being a case of, oh, well, because you have infinitely many more wins than the next person, this is where you should be. I explained it. Like I said, I have 2 situations depending on how I view their quad resume. One situation ends up with Vapor and Toasty resume being tied at 3 apiece, where Toasty has 3 of the criteria items, Vapor has 3. Or I have the other way, where then it's Toasty has 4 of them and Vapor only has 2. And the problem is, on my list, I don't compare him to G-Man until it's G-Man right ahead of Vapor. So, like, it would have to be a situation of, like, G-Man was 5, Vapor was 6. Then that head-to-head can come into play.
Yeah, this is going to always be an age-old debate. Quality wins versus the quantity. Now, quantity, we just said, is going to get you far. If we're talking about the quantity guy, we talked about Lane, right? Lane's big. Yepes, of the guys that just straight got to go balls to the wall quantity. He's the top of the class. The problem is, he's got a tournament win. Those other guys would love a tournament win. He's locked in. Those other guys are fighting. And I think for Toasty's
quantity on its own has never been the formula that's gotten someone to number 1.
Right. And that's we have data where you can't say quantity is going to just push you at number 1. Listen, fair play. If 10 of those wins were in quad 1 and 2, and he had 11 wins, that's
He's number 1. Yeah.
Not only that, I think he's got the regular season. No one's going to touch that. no one. If you have 10 wins in quad 1 and 2, and no one's even close, you've already won. You don't have to take T5 off. Do an Ashley. No one's touching that. And I think that's the problem. It's just in the opposite end. If only he had, if he gets a run from, let's say, Jenna or Camaro or I don't know, Steven or Acosta, Ed, he gets runs from those guys and they start to do when we do the reshuffle after T5, which will be a new metric thing. We're going to try. Then maybe he's got a shot to be a number 2 or 3. But right now, unless that, some of it's aged well, Caesar aged well, for sure.
Caesar, Gold aged well.
Yep.
I mean, granted, some of these are wins that he picked up in this tournament, though, too. Lamas aged well, because Lamas was quad 4 before. But, I mean, the ones that he definitely could use some help on, Jenna, Tago, Amaro, Peter even. If some of those can make a somewhat of a run, then yeah, that would help him a lot.
I don't want to spend too much time on this because his strength of Scott even mentioned is a 0.5. It's the 45th in the league. It's not. I don't want to take too much to point that out, but
he is the lowest that received any first place votes as well.
Yeah, he is on a bye. If we started today, he did get. Let's not beat around bush. He jumped up plus 11, but let's look where we had him on the list before I asked the question.
So,
Brad had him at 1.
Yoshi and Brad had him were the 2 first place votes he got. AP poll would have had him at 4th.
Right.
Ahead of you and you and Mac.
I
had him down at 8, which is I think the lowest. You had him at 7. Lamas was 6. Ard was 6.
Yeah, and G was 2. Okay. So, yeah.
Again, the 4 versus 3 situation.
Yeah, we're at a race, and it seems that us 4, me, you, Art and Lamas we're drafting pretty good right now. We got a good tandem style draft going. We went to a 4 team draft here, but yeah. But then again, in this case, Yoshi G and Brad, they all stay the same. So there's discrepancy, right? And I'm not sure what to think about this because, like I said, he got 2 first place votes, but ultimately the guy ended up number 1, which we'll talk about, which is also controversial to some. Got it for a reason. Now, the question I have for you is, we talk about the bye. My question is just going to revolve around Vapor. It's not even the other guys. I think they're all going to be in. I think Myth and Toasty make it. I think Lara, barring a disaster, I think if Lara even can just get 1 win, maybe it's borderline. I think would still get in. Varigo probably in, even if it's a loss. I think it's enough because of the way it ages. And even then, I think Varigo 9-5, we can't deny that. And 10-4 to a 10-5 won't be denied. My question is to Vapor, do you think he makes one more run? It's just that simple. Do you think he makes an Elite 8 run to get himself in the top 2? Yes or no?
I don't know if he makes an Elite 8 run, but I definitely think he'll... He gives off a vibe that he's going to take being the fact that on 4 of our lists, now that he'll know this, assuming he watches the podcast, knowing that 4 of us had him 6th or lower, and considering he felt like he should be a top 3 player, I think he's going to definitely go out and try and make a run just to put no question about the fact that he should be in that top 3. And that's going to be in all honesty, that's the best way of doing that, is if you have a problem with where some of us have you on the list, go out and just do it, win again, keep winning. Age-old mantra is winning solves everything. That's definitely the case here.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to penalize someone for going rounds, other than the idea of you might lose out in comparison. That's about it. But if you go rounds, look at like what happened with the Pier. He moved up past some people, fell behind some people, still ended up staying the same because he at least went rounds.
Yeah. Put up or shut up, right? That's the time. Now's the time to go out there and win. I think Vapor's not a guy to take the foot off the gas. Now with this extra, Remember, it's his last year. This is, ironically, this is
case of don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, it's his last
And
tournament
he's in
ever.
uncharted territory.
We're going to see from Vapors a motivated guy. It's his last ever regular season tournament coming up in T5. Nothing to lose in a sense. He's already locked in. We'll see you in Super
Starts
League.
with the number 1 overall seed. So
Yeah.
it's going to be in round 2 no matter what.
Yep. We have a lot of buy islands, which we'll get to the actual episode. We'll be short do it, but let's go to the last 5 here. We're going to stack. Well, it's only fitting that we stack with Stack Johnson and me as 5 and 4. I got the 4. Stack's got the 5. We'll package deal this one because this is a great example. We talk about the tournament winners head to head. Here's Stack's resume and mine. Stacked is a 1-1 in quad 1. I'm a 1-1 in quad 1. Now Stacked is a 3-0 in quad 2. I have played more games at 2-2. Stacked is 2-2 in quad 3. I'm 2-1. We're both 1-0 in quad 4. Now the crazy thing, Sandfer, is for Stacked and me, we basically almost had the same SOL. We both have 5 out of, I think this should be 4. I think I have 4 top 25 wins. I think he also had 4. Or was it 5? Either way. No, it was 5. I think it was 5. It's pretty damn close. I had the head-to-head.
If it was 5, it's now become 6.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little later. The reshuffles. Yeah, the reshuffles on both of us, pretty good, right? Stacked went insane in quad 2. Ashley asked. I traded a lot of quad 4 for quad 3 to quad. I had some good trades. Your thoughts on us too, because I think we have a symbiotic relationship. We both played each other, and after he lost to me, he got better, and after I beat him, I didn't get better maybe as a player, but I was allowed a more affordability to take certain things to a new level strategically. So it worked out symbiotically both well, and this is a great example of it doesn't matter where you start, at least with the boss, because I started as the number 2 overall seed back in T1. He started as a 15 seed, for crying out loud. So that just shows you that it doesn't matter maybe in that element, but thoughts on us too is a stacked deal of 5 and 4. Mac 4. Stacked 5. That's his new name. No more Pat Johnson. No more, it's Stack Johnson. That's his new name.
And the reason why he's saying stack is we were doing the reshuffle, and not to say all of it, but for Mac, the reason why it's now Stack Johnson is whatever quad 4 games he would have possibly had, he lost. They're no longer quad 4. And his quad 2 is an absolutely mind-boggling, never often seen 4-2.
That's unheard of.
So, insane quad 2. If I re-rack this, I tried it, and it's the vapor toasty thing, except this time the wins doesn't even factor into this because both players have the same number of wins. For Mac, the one problem I will say that's on his resume is he is the highest ranked player on my list with a round 1 exit, and the problem is that he's got 2 of them. So I mentioned that people with 2 round 1 exits were all over my board. You have Matt came in 5th on my board with 2 round 1 exits. Lara was 10th with 2. Ziemba 14 with 2. Logan was 17th with 2. Peter was 22nd. And anyone else with Acosta was 24th. And then anyone else with 2 ended up even just outside my top 25 altogether.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Stack Johnson and me, it's just mind-boggling that we're up here. Because we all know what I can do. We're not going to talk about that much. But for Mac, he earned this spot. Personally, where he was at the beginning of his career, and he still has a losing record, he's earned it. And I think for Stacked, it's become a transparent thing. But let's talk about where we both were ranked. Let's start with Mac. Now, everyone are stacked. I had Stacked 5. You had Stacked 5. Where did you have Stacked? 5.
I had 5.
Stacked Columbus.
Okay, so
5.
At this point, it's worth mentioning at this point, the rest of the way, you and I had each of these players at the same spot. Like I said, the only difference inside of our top 13s was Vapor and Toasty, we had Flip.
Actually, boss, it looks like it's you, me, and Arden Lamas.
Well, yeah, all four of us had Mac at 5. Mac was fourth on G's, second on Yoshi's, and then somehow 7th on Brad's.
Yeah. And then I was basically 4 for us 4 had you, me, myself, Ard, all 4.
Actually, yeah, the rest. Sorry, yeah. You, me, Lamas, and Ard
All the same top 5.
All had the same top 5.
That's crazy. But then again, we had been mainly consistent.
I guess that's if you want to try and say we were wrong. We shared all 4 of us shared one brain cell when it came to the top 5.
Yeah, that's true. And G had me at 5, and then 7 for Yoshi, and Brett had me at 10. So definitely, that's a big spread. There's 4 to 10 is a big spread. It's like Vapor 6 to 1 to 8. That's a spread. Stacked was the spread of what 4 to 7, I think. Yeah, it's not bad. But definitely,
well, and on the AP poll, Mac came out ahead 5th to your 6th, and a difference of 5 points total.
Right, and ironically, Vapor was ahead on both of us in the AP poll, but we all know that's a little bit inflated. Now, I'm not going to say too much because I think for Stacked, he's pretty much safe. We already know with the tournament, he's going to probably go for whatever at this rate. He's on a stacked resume, house money. We all know what, I mean, barring a disaster, we talked about, we're all in the top 8. It's going to take a lot to take us out. Now we go to number 3, and I think this is more interesting for me because this number 3 is going to be G, but I think on the reshuffle, he may have profited off like a bandit. But let's get to his resume first. Now, remember, he got a little bratted. He did get a little bratted, which was the old Brad thing from last year. He's got 3-1 in quad 1 and 2, but he did get the 5-2 in quad 3 and 4, the .577, and a 3 out of 8, 37.5 on the top 25 wins. But in my opinion, Sandfer, it's enough to beat Stacked and me because while Stacked and me have a lot of volume, G's got that upper end consistency and more ceiling, especially with the fact that he's 2-0 in quad 1, where Stacked and I don't touch that. And ultimately, we all have, ironically, 3 wins in a sense of, not 3 wins. We all have, ironically, in a sense of some good wins. But I think for G, what separates him is the reshuffle and the fact that he had better ceiling as well. I looked into the ceiling. A lot of his wins aged very well. Talk me through it. I think he definitely has a case for number 1 if we redid it today.
Yeah, in fact, I think I would put G there too. In fact, actually, I was trying to reanalyze, and that's the one change I really have been able to make. But yeah, G came in number 3 for mine. At the time, actually, I even admit I moved him higher upon for review. The updated resume helps him out a lot. So G definitely in a good spot, I think, going into this. Although with the tournament win, I think it's more down to where does he want to be seated. Does he want double bye? Does he want just single bye? Is he okay with being in the group stage because he's been in that before? Depends on where he's going to be at. It's a good spot for him to be, for sure.
Yeah, full disclosure, I don't see G taking a foot off the gas.
Probably not.
No way. No, G's not the guy to do that. And, he's made the Elite 8 in T4. He got a tournament win. He's got some good wins on the season. He's got who are his 2 big wins? Oh shoot! I don't even remember. It's getting late now. But yeah. Well, actually, what am I talking about? He got the Gone win helps for sure. Most of it wasn't that T2 run. I'm pretty sure. Let me check. Yeah, Gone he got. Then he got the Monkey win, which was huge. And helmet Larahuo. That's going to be a good win there. That aged well. Yeah, Arya aged well. Nam, okay, aged pretty well. Yeah, there's a lot of wins for G. It just aged well. Yui, ironically, you beat him, but didn't affect him. That loss, I think, aged well a little. So I think G's in a good spot. I think everyone unanimously had him at number 3, except for
Well, the
Yoshi,
only
I think?
exceptions here actually was
Yoshi and Brad.
Yoshi and Brad.
Yeah.
Whereas 5 for Yoshi and 4 for Brad, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's not that bad of a range, though. And he came out 3 in the AP poll, so no problem there. That leaves us with 2 spots. We're going to package these 2 guys together because
There's a
Monkey
head-to-head
Boy,
involved.
Monkey Boy, who may have been playing a little strategy, which maybe shed a tear for Sanford's eyes. I don't know. Maybe a tear shed right
I
there.
mean, probably a little, but then just made it a lot more complex.
Yeah, here's the resume. Nick, he's 4-1 in qual 1 and 2. Monkey, keep in mind, does have the head-to-head, is a whopping 3 and 2. Okay. Nick is a whopping 4 and 2 in quad 3 and 4 versus Monkey has less in a sense of better quad 3, but he's also got a quad 4L. So honest to God here, I'm just going to call a spade a spade. The strength of schedule is not barely, is in Monkey's favor, which helps. But I think the head-to-head ultimately kept Monkey ahead. But realistically, on the shuffle, I think Nick's ahead. And I think Monkey, I think he's still safe, which is crazy to say. He's going to have a little work to do. He's going to be more in a similar spot to myself and Mint, I think. Just a little bit more work to do, and they should be good. Is that fair assessment to round out the night here?
I think it's a fair assessment. I'm going to disagree. I think even on the reshuffle, I think I still have Monkey ahead of Nick. It's still pretty even. And what really won out to me in terms of when we made the list was both players still lost in the round of 32. I will say and admit that the one thing against Monkey in terms of resume is he does have a round 1 exit. But overall, resume is still pretty close here. And like I said, both players, though, should be very safe for Super League. Monkey does carry some good head-to-heads as well. Even if he does fall behind Nick, he carries a Toasty head-to-head. He has Caesar head-to-head, Ziemba head-to-head as well. So some pretty good head-to-heads in there.
Yeah.
And for Nick, obviously, at the end of the day, tournament win. So all that matters for him is actually going to be where does he want to be seated in. For him, he not knowing what to expect from Super League, definitely has mentioned he wants that bye and aims for it, and that anyone that's not aiming for the bye should get their head rechecked.
That's a comment, but once again, we talk about biases. He's never been there, so he doesn't know what he doesn't know. And then for us, we've been there, veteran. And this is, let's face, any sport you do, yeah, great vocabulary. Any sport you participate in, any sport you watch, there's always going to be a clash of cultures. Let's not forget Nick is, 20? He's 20 years old, right? First time making Super League. Or 19 or 20, right? Whatever he is. Then you got me out here who's, 26? You're 30. We're more experienced, a little more age on us in the sense of life. And we've been here before, done that, right? Twice. We've only played in groups. And I've done it group stage and a bye. And honest to God, I don't know if it really matters anymore on my end, because it'd be nice to get the bye, sure, because last year it was just an extenuating circumstances. But I think I should be taken out of the equation except we're most likely going to make it back there again, because it is a home area for me in my life. Going to that city, it doesn't matter. I'm going to enjoy the moment. But at the same time, let's say if you somehow can find a way, or the guys that are two-timing it, whether it be from 23 to 25 or 24 back-to-back 25, they're going to have different opinions. But let's get to it. Monkey, real quick, where he was on the list. The four Stooges, you already left. At this rate.
Yes. So he had the most first place votes at 4, which was
all four
of us that we mentioned have the same top 5.
Yeah, and Monkey, where did she have him? 6?
6. Yoshi
6
had
again.
him 3rd, and Brad had him
6.
6. So yeah.
So yeah, there's a disparity. That's a big disparity, like Vapor 1 and 6. And for Nick,
it's how he ends up 2nd, even though he had 4 first place votes.
Nick had 1 from G, got a 1 from G. The Four Stooges had him at 2. Brad had him at 2 at R.
G had him 1st. Yoshi had him 4th. Everyone else had him 2nd.
So that just shows you, even the top couple spot, we couldn't even decide on who wanted to be a top. We still had a massive disparity. The only consistent people really were G. That's about it.
Nick was up there for consistency of where he was at. Yeah.
So my question to you, Sanford, before we get into a little bit of the history, because I don't even remember the timestamp. It's probably been 2 hours plus.
We're over 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. My question for you is, out of these 5, I don't even want to care about who you trust. Who do you think has the best chance to win Super League? Because let's face it, we're all going to be here. I know Monkey and myself aren't locked in, but let's just, for Grizz, we're probably going to make it. We already talked about the top 8. Who do you think has the best chance to win it right now, if you had to pick one?
I mean, you're asking me a question, and immediately based on how you phrased it, the answer, I think there's only really one answer, and it's just a matter of how biased you want to pick and whether or not you want to eliminate yourself from the running on that. Considering you're the only one out of this group that's made both Super Leagues and you've made the Final Four for both, give me you out of that group of 5 as the most likely to win it all.
I'll take myself out. I'll be neutral about this. I'm actually going to go with... No, I got to go with G. I mean, the problem is Nick won March. There's always that March thing.
Winner has never fared well, other than, at least not, not in terms of getting close to winning it all.
Ironically, the March winner, I mean, Peter finished, I think, 6th or 7th in 2023.
Well, Peter didn't get out of the group stage.
Right.
You had a bye to make sure that you weren't in the group stage. And made Final Four.
I didn't make final. I was the best of the fifth. I got 5th, but still, still a top 5, right? This we'll see what.
Okay, so I guess that helps prove the idea of why it shouldn't be Nick. Is March winner has yet to finish top 4,
and not only that, do we really know what Monkey's responsibility when he gets that power? That is a who knows.
We know what Mac's gonna do once he gets Super League too. I mean, like 3 of the top 5 have never been in Super League.
Yeah, I mean, it's only me and G. The podcast tells how fitting, right? And G hasn't been there since 23. I'm going to go with G because of history, but
I don't want to pick yourself.
I'm not picking my. I can't do that. Even though it's partially my. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do it to the fans. But assuming everything goes right this year, out of these 5, we're all going to make it. It's just crazy that some of these people are making it. We got Monkey. It has 15 career losses, man. The second chance heaven is here. I mean, Stat Johnson does a losing record overall in his career is here. Nick was nowhere last year and has now made a resurgence. G was nowhere last year. He's made a resurgence from 23. There's not going to say anything about myself, but the field is just, it's wide open. Now that we look at the field, look at the people in it. Monkey first time, it's 1. Nick 2. Stack 3. Vapor 4. Myth 5. Lara 6. BC 7. Andy's 8. I mean, we are talking about half the field is who knows, right? And who's a favorite? I don't know. History says top 8 entering the last reveal, now excluding Eli, because that doesn't count. As long as you don't have any issues like that off the table, you're going to make it. I'm going to say this. Is there someone that bucks the trend, Sanford? Last question. Who's going to buck the trend? Is there someone that's going to buck the trend from, I'm going to say, Ghana on back that gets in and makes a miracle run? We see it every year. We saw what Clay 23. Brock and Allen, right? Allen I know a little bit different, but still, Brock for sure made a miracle run, got in. Allen was close. Who knows if he was one stream game away that maybe was showed up on time, and who knows, he could have made the finale and he could have won. So thoughts on just who bucks the trend, who's a sleeper in T5 to watch? Someone way out there. Give me a left field name.
Well, I don't know if it counts as a sleeper, considering he would have done this before to get really close. But he comes in 30th on my list, so it wouldn't have been one of the guys ranked, but he's still in that quad 3 discussion. I'd say Clay is a sleeper. Give him a right pod, he could definitely make a run. I don't think you can rule out myself, but I'm not gonna. It's not one of those situations where I'm going in with the mindset of trying anymore at this point. It's just going to be go for the vibes and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Tapir. I think gets in, and then for a sleeper, way out there in left field, I'll give a couple. I think you gotta be in. You're always gotta be a threat. Blamis, I'm gonna throw in as well. This is really left field. I know this is gonna be ridiculous to say, but I know he's had nothing going for him all season, and we talked about he is a defending winner of this tournament a little bit. I think Tago's going to do it. I think for some reason my heart tells me he's been sweeping people. He gets swept early in the season. Then he gets into this Game 7 mode. I think he puts the pieces together. I don't think he gets to the finale, but he'll get to a Final Four. I got a gut feeling he'll get to a Final Four. He'll get good wins. It'll be 6-5, and he's going to leave it up to the committee. And we talked about this. 6 wins could be the magic number. If you have good wins and there's 6, and let's say 4 or 5 of them are in top 15 consideration, and you have 6 wins and 4 or 5 are in the quad 1, pencil you in. You got a shot. I got to feel it. The only one, but now, no, my luck now, in our luck, JT makes a run. Somehow he makes a run, and we all get proven wrong. With 0 wins, which is still that's insane to think about, but who knows? If you made it this long, thank you for sticking with us for, I don't even know, 3 hours at this rate.
We didn't get to that quite, although apparently we have gone longer than the last time I was on the pod.
2:36. Okay, well, I don't even remember the timestamp. I think I'm just going to put 2:32 on the timestamp. If you made it this long, thank you for sticking with it. We are going to have Charles Sandfer back, no doubt, no question. Potentially
we'll go for 3 hours.
Yeah, well, it might be me, you, and G for that last one, for the last reveal. We might do a triple threat there. That would be
that would be something.
Yeah, that would be something. Lamas, fire up the old thumbnail. But regardless, thank you to Cody Lamas. Beautiful thumbnail. That's Seth, yeah. Shorts, for those of you who don't, shout out Short. I don't think he's been with us the whole time, but he did
the whole time. He definitely.
We gave him the night off as our executive EP producer right there. He could just enjoy his free time while we chopped it up for 2.5 hours talking about our world's favorite thing, the bracket and list. This time the list. But anyway, thank you to Short for sticking it out. Check us out on YouTube. We'll see you back for the next episode. This time with me and Short, most likely, as I don't know. I couldn't get Seth on the other episode, but regardless. Check us out for me and Short, and we hope we enlightened you guys on how we do the list. And if you learned anything, Four Stooges, Stack Johnson, and anything can happen. There you go. Have a good night.